What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another installment here of Honest and Uneducated, the show where we talk about anything from movies, movie news, video games, comic books, collectibles. There's all sorts of fun stuff like that. We have a ton, unlike a lot of other weeks here recently, especially during the midst of this pandemic. Some of the times I feel like we've had to kind of struggle to find some, at least some really like good meaty topics to talk about, and it feels like this past week we were just like bombarded with a ton of movie news, and this PS5 and Xbox came out. There's just a ton of stuff going on in this little video game sphere that we live in here. So we got a ton of topics that we're going to try to get through here today. And joining me to get through these topics here is none other than John Knight. How you doing today, John?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm not too bad. Not too bad. Rick, who is normally here with us, so he's not feeling too well today. Not COVID related. He's just got a headache, so he decided to take the day off here. So it's just
Always better be safe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was like upset that he couldn't come and do the show and everything, but I was like, dude, if you're not feeling good,
Yeah, get better.
yeah, just go get some rest, man. It's not a big deal. Like we can, the show will go on. It's fine. Like we just sit here and nerd out for a little bit anyway, so it's all fine. But before we get into these main topics, guys, don't forget here you can submit topics and questions to the show by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. Other than that, I mean, don't forget to like, subscribe, all that sorts of fun stuff. We did check out too. I'm probably gonna be streaming some Demon Souls coming up here too, because I got a hook up here. Someone you may know who's able to get me a PS5 in hand. So I'll have that tomorrow, and courtesy of Mr. John Knight, he had an extra one. Now I'm gonna have one because that was I did the put in my cart thing for all 3 or 4 times when Walmart had them go on sale, because I was an idiot and didn't think about pre-ordering them when they first pre-order sales went on. So I was trying to get one from Walmart, and that was just I won't bore you with the story, but it didn't work out too well.
I've heard from lots of people. It's just been brutal trying to get your hands on one of these new consoles.
Yeah,
I was really lucky. I mean, I my initial one, the one that you're getting, like that was just my impulse. Like, okay, it's there. I'm buying it. I don't care what it comes with because I just want to have it. And then later on, I found that second bundle that I did want that came with all the actual games I wanted and stuff. So that's why I ended up with the 2. But yeah, pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because me, like I was telling you, like I play all my games on PC. So like for the past, I haven't got a console at launch since the Nintendo Wii. Like that's how long ago it was, and that's the only one that I've gotten at launch, because like I didn't care about anything on launch time. I have like a PS3 and I have a PS4, but I never got the Xbox One. I stopped at the Xbox 360 because their exclusives were just, why would I play? Most of their offerings are all on PC, and then their exclusives, Halo kind of took a bomb. Like they were never very fun after Halo 3, in my opinion. And then like Gears of War, I never really got into all that much. Like it was fun, I enjoyed it, but it was nothing I ever really felt like needing to come back to. So like I don't know. That's where Microsoft needs some better exclusives. They don't got anything going on right now.
I probably would have been okay skipping the Xbox launch this time. But I have some other buddies that I play some stuff with, and they were getting them, and so in order to keep up with the Joneses there, I went ahead and jumped on that one too. But I had to get the PS5. I had to get Miles Spider-Man. So that was the one I was real concerned with, and came through. So
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what PS5's like popping off with their like release exclusives. Like they got Miles and Demon Souls. Probably something else too, but those are the only 2 I care about. But then, like, because that's the thing, I never worried about pre-ordering it because I was really only thinking God of War, like, because I want to play that, but that's not coming out probably for like a year, so I didn't think anything of it. But then, like, I completely forgot and didn't realize that Miles Morales and Demon Souls were launch titles. I just assumed they weren't, but lo and behold, they were there. So by the time I realized that, they were sold out.
Yeah.
So. But we'll stop boring you with all the PS5 thought, 'cause I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who weren't able to get their hands on it too, so I don't wanna bum anybody out by any means. So,
Yeah, if you were, keep the faith. I mean, we got Black Friday coming up. We got a lot of days between now and Christmas. I'm sure both Xbox and PlayStation are going to be trying to flood the market and trying to fill that need that's out there. So just keep at it.
yeah,
Things will happen.
and don't go out and pay double, triple the price
Oh
for it, dude.
God.
Just wait. Like the only
Yeah.
time that you would need to do that is if like your career depends on you having one. But I feel like if your
Sure.
career depended on you having one, you probably would have already gotten one by now. Like, you know what I mean? You would
You.
have had a
Yeah.
way to get one. So
Yeah.
don't do that. Just wait. They'll be out. Hopefully as soon as Black Friday. If not, I'm sure there'll be more available come Christmas. So
Yeah.
just hold out for it. Hold out for it. But anyway, let's get into our main topics here today, guys. And our first main topic is going to be about the Snyder Cut. A ton of news has come out about the Snyder Cut. A couple things that I'm very excited about. There's mainly one thing that I'm really excited about. Another thing I'm kind of confused about in some ways. But first off, the kind of bigger story of everything, at least with these four Snyder Cut kind of tidbit topics here, it brings us to Zack Snyder recently did an interview, and he said that of all the well, recently too, just to backtrack 2 seconds, uh, we got like word here within the last couple of weeks, and we covered it on the show and everything that like Jared Leto was going to be returning for the Joker to reprise his role as the Joker from Suicide Squad. He never showed up in like Justice League or anything like that, but he was going to be reprising his role as the Joker for the Snyder Cut. So he was actually going to be coming in and doing some like additional photography with Jared Leto and Joe Manganiello. So he was going to be going back up as Deathstroke, and he did make an appearance at the end, post kind of credit scene of the original Justice League that came out in theaters and
Mhm.
everything. But then there was also another story that Zach was going to be doing additional photography in general for the show. So like I think even like Amber Heard came back and did some shots where with for the Snyder Cut, and then a lot of the original cast members were also coming back to do some. So they did some stuff with Flash, Cyborg, I think even Gal. I don't know if there was ever confirmation that Ben and Henry came back to do anything, but nearly everybody in the original Justice League came back to do some sort of additional photography. But Zach said in this recent interview that amidst all the 4 hours of the Snyder Cut miniseries is going to be only about 4 minutes of it, just 4 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes, I guess he technically says, is going to be additional photography for the entire movie, which I found pretty like interesting because like I just went off the the list of all the people they brought back to do additional photography. I mean, only 4 to 5 minutes seems like a very small amount. Like what
It's a lot of money and a lot of effort on the part of WB and everybody else to get everybody back together for 4 minutes of footage.
yeah, and I can't imagine I don't like I never expected them to come back and do additional photography and have like an hour's worth of footage with these people. Like I figured it'd be a very small amount. But once we
Yeah.
started hearing all these things about like Jared Leto and Joe Manganiello in particular, like two people who weren't even in the original cut, once I got heard that like they were coming back, I assumed we were looking at least 10, 20 minutes of new footage because, like, elsewise, I think I even said on the show before when that news first came out, like, what is the point of, like, A, bringing them back for just like a quick little throwaway tidbit, but B, if they have no plans to continue doing anything with like Jared Leto's Joker in like a Ben Affleck Batman movie or something or another Suicide Squad movie, because we know he's not going to be in, we don't know for sure, but there's been don't know if there's been confirmation that he's going to make any sort of appearance in James Gunn's Suicide Squad, but I'm pretty sure he's not. So, like, my whole thing was, why would Jared Leto and Joe Manganiello even bother coming back to like reprise the roles of Joker and Deathstroke if they essentially aren't going to be able to do anything else with those characters going forward? Like, 'cause the Deathstroke
Yeah.
movie essentially is dead, and then the Joker and Harley Quinn movie's like pretty much been dead. There's been no news on that coming out. So it's just odd. So I figured, with them coming back in particular, that there'd probably be, I don't know, a decent amount of footage with them. And it's just and once you get to all the people that came back for it, just 4 minutes just seems like such a small amount. Oh,
It
yeah,
does. Here's the one thing that I thought when I first heard this and I started thinking through like we were talking about, like why do you bring all these people back? Why I mean, really is 4 minutes worth it? And I'm wondering if the key word in that whole thing isn't the 4 minutes of quote new footage. Um, I don't know that all the principal photography had been finished when Zach initially left the project. So I'm curious if maybe by new footage, they're referring to maybe additional scenes or additional dialogue that was not supposed to be in his original cut, and that he went back to and threw in some extra stuff when he was given the opportunity to expand the movie and make it basically a 4 hour long movie. If he decided, oh well, here I wanted to flesh out this scene a little more, or this scene over here a little more, and and went ahead and added 4 minutes to what he originally wanted to shoot, but then they also need to do some pickup shots on um, some of the footage that he had done previously, but hadn't been able to finish because of the timing of when he left the project. So I'm thinking maybe that's the case. That makes more sense to me to bring all these people back in and set up all these other shoots and sets and stuff, rather than just hey, I want to have these additional 4 minutes in the movie.
right. No, I agree. I mean, it's just, I mean, I could totally see that being the case. I just figure at least with my guess here, and I was trying to find another story here because this reminded me that this was going to be happening too. Because in another interview Zach did recently, he was talking about um actually doing like he said like the plans were there. He knows where the story picks up after Justice
Yep.
League 1. So he essentially like there is because from the start there was Justice League was always supposed to be a two-part thing.
Yep.
That obviously seemed to be dead like ever since, Zach left the first film and Joss Whedon came in and blah blah blah, everybody knows that story. So we never really assumed we'd ever see that, but so I mean, I don't know. Is it? I'd like to see it. I don't know if
I,
it's ever gonna be possible at this point, but he was
I
just talking about it.
Yeah, I saw that same interview, that same article that covered that, and it really seemed like he was opening the door to if this works, if WB is happy with the returns with the viewers on HBO Max for this series or for his cut of Justice League, it really seems like he was opening the door to say, "Hey, let's run it back and let's finish out the story that I had in my head,"
Yeah.
which I'm all for. If they want to do a Dark Side War, hey, bring it on.
Oh, I know. I'd love because that's the thing that kind of bums me out too. Because we know Darkseid was supposed to be in that whole scene where Steppenwolf comes in, and it's like the flashback scene where he's fighting the Amazons and the Greek
Yep.
gods and all that stuff. That's actually Darkseid in his cut, and we've seen
Yeah.
like teasers of that happening. And this is supposed to be Darkseid pre Darkseid, like before he actually takes
Mhm.
on the mantle of Darkseid. And yeah, Darkseid's like my favorite character, so I'd love to see more of it fleshed out, and I could totally see them doing it if this thing is for one, uh, I'd say just if it's successful in some way, if it brings in viewership and brings in subscribers, they already put 70 plus million into letting him finish this thing. So, I
Yeah.
mean, if it's successful enough, I know there was a recent article that came out said that Disney Plus in their first year, they're up to like 73 million subscribers or something, which is about either double or maybe even triple what HBO has, HBO Max has, which is kind of shocking. Just
Yeah.
shocking just because Disney Plus hasn't had anything like new content wise other than The Mandalorian. And I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like that catalog obviously did wonders for them because HBO Max, even though they've been only around for a couple months at this point, they have put out like a lot more original series and everything than they
They
have.
have. I think the one thing that Disney has going for them is they have that kid content. The young, a lot of families are going to be more inclined, I think, to grab Disney Plus than they would HBO Max. So I think that helps them. And then Disney Plus has had they have had a little drought of content, but they also had some things right when they jumped off. I mean, they had the High School Musical show, which isn't necessarily in my wheelhouse, but there were a lot of people that were happy about that. And then they had the Lady and the Tramp live action movie that went straight to them, and so they've had some things that definitely I think are more family oriented and maybe got some more families to buy into their service.
Yeah. I mean, like, their catalog, though, I can't like, obviously I think the
Yeah,
catalog kinda speaks for itself. That's obviously, I think they're
sure.
selling. But realistically, too, could you imagine how many like, how much bigger do you think they could be if they would have actually been on track to have Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision
Oh God,
already,
yeah,
like, 'cause they was those 2 things were already supposed to have come out.
yeah,
So, I mean, I feel like if they definitely, I think, would have been probably closer to like 100 million at this point if they were able to get
sure.
70 million off the backs of Mandalorian and the catalog for the most part. I mean, if those
Yeah,
Marvel shows came
when you have
out,
a show yeah, when you have a show with established characters that people have just especially coming out, like, right after Endgame, I mean, can you imagine if they would have had Falcon and Winter Soldier ready to go right after the end of Endgame? Because everybody wants to know, "Okay, where's the Marvel Universe going now?" I mean,
mhm,
Endgame ended with, we lost Tony and we lost Steve, and what's gonna happen next? I mean, Falcon gets the shield, Sam gets the shield, and what does that mean? And those answers hopefully are coming in that series, but it would have, But now, I mean, the flip side of that is we haven't had any MCU content for over a year.
yeah,
The first time in what, a decade almost, that we haven't had new MCU content for over a year, and maybe that thirst for that new content will drive a lot of subscribers once those shows are ready to
mhm.
go.
That's what I was gonna say. Like now that Black Widow was pushed out, we've gone a full year at this point. MCU route on top of all that.
I,
So
I'm feeling it, man. I'm feeling the Jones in
yeah.
it.
I mean, unfortunately, too, like we talked about last week, the Avengers game didn't really fill in that void too well. You know, like it's pretty hit and
Yeah,
miss, and you'd think like, maybe it could have satiated some of that hunger, but it didn't. I don't know. It didn't seem to turn out that way for the masses, unfortunately.
yeah.
So, and then other than that, with the Snyder Cut thing, we got a couple more little tidbits here. That was like the main meaty Snyder Cut topic, but we got an image of Darkseid here. Speaking of Darkseid himself, here this was another shot of him that came out here on a TV show, or not TV show, a T-shirt. You see where my brain's at right now. So we got
Really,
this, yeah.
really cool look at him. I was actually really, I thought he looks awesome there. He looks like the classic Dark Side that I was really hoping we'd get to see at some point.
It looks
So
good. Looks good. That's why, like, I hope it takes off, and just I hope they can somehow justify and bring everybody back to do a follow up, just so we get more Dark Side. Man.
yeah,
Like and a Justice League 2, just to see more Dark Side, and not to mention a Martian Manhunter little image. So this was like, I told you what, and I've said this before. From the start, after I saw Man of Steel, I wanted, Harry Lennox's character to be Martian Manhunter. It made the most sense to ever as soon as I saw him and that movie played out, I was like,
yep,
"That dude needs to be Martian Manhunter." It's absolutely
yep,
perfect. Like, the way he's just everything he did with Clark and everything, how just, like, not caring, I don't know what, just, like, kinda chill with him. Like, he was just chill with him the whole
sure,
time. He was always on Clark's
yeah.
side with it, and I mean, it just made the most sense for, like, yeah, that dude should definitely be Martian Manhunter.
Almost looking out for him in a way,
Yeah,
yeah, a
yeah.
little bit, yeah,
So I'm super glad that, Zach was on the same page with me on that and, like, I guess had that plan from the start. So, like, we got a little tease. So,
hmm
I don't, because that's another thing too with, like, only this 4 minutes of stuff, 4 minutes, like, they're supposed to have Martian Manhunter in it too, and, like, all these other things, like, the 4 or 5 minutes thing just kinda blows my mind with all this stuff.
yeah,
And,
and that's why I think that 4 or 5 minutes. I think that's new stuff that he wrote. I think that's additional scenes that were not in his original script. That he for now that he has the freedom to expand it out, has decided that he wants to shoot.
maybe maybe it's a little bit more, and he's just, like, kind of teasing it. Like
Yeah.
4 to 5 minutes, but then we see it's like 20, 30 minutes. Like, who knows? Who knows? I don't know.
We end up getting a bonus fifth hour of the Justice
Yeah.
League
Well, it's kinda
series that would
it's like I was saying before though too, even with, like with Jared Leto in particular coming back, what nowhere does the Joker fit into the Justice League story that we got. And,
No.
like, yes, the Snyder Cut is different than what we got in Justice League, but the meat and bones of the movie is essentially the same. Like, because Joss didn't really get to change all that much of it. They essentially just cut a ton of stuff out and reshot a couple things, shortened it up, and that was it. The meat and potatoes of the invasion happening and all that stuff, that's the story still. I mean, there's obviously gonna be more to it, but I was just like, there's no way, like, Joker, like, would have too much screen time in this movie because, like, he doesn't fit in against, like, Joker fighting parademons, like, or, it doesn't make a
Sure.
whole lot of sense. Deathstroke, you could kinda make an argument that he could hold his own with everything, but, like, he still
Do
doesn't really
you
fit into the story.
Yeah,
There's no way.
now that you're talking about that all that, it makes me wonder if that isn't if he's not really if those 2 weren't brought back to do an expanded after credit scene. Like,
That's
maybe
what
that
I'm
credit
thinking.
scene on the
Yeah,
yeah,
because I
which
mean,
still, that'd be cool. I'd love to see it.
yeah, like, my guess, like, from the start with that was, like, I really didn't see why they would come back because, like, they don't really fit into the story unless they were gonna be setting, like, the Ben Affleck Batman solo movie up. Like, there
Yeah,
were rumors that, like, that was actually gonna be happening. Just unsubstantiated rumors and everything, but that's really the only thing that ever made sense to me. For those 2 characters particularly making any sort of appearance in this Justice League movie would specifically be to set up something else. Like, even if it's
mhm,
not the Ben Affleck Batman movie, that's just what makes the most sense for those 2 characters, being that it's Joker and Deathstroke.
yeah,
Um, I don't know, I just don't know why else it would really be in there. I don't know what the I in my mind, I'm not Zack Snyder, I didn't work on the movie and know anything about what his cut of the movie is, but I just don't know where they fit into it. Like, unless, like I said, setting something else up. But speaking of Joker, the last, story we had here was this, producer was on, producer of what was it, Justice League or BVS, one of the 2, came out and, started talking about the initial plans for, like, how Joker would have killed Robin. And, in the little tweet here, they say, "If Zack and David stick with the story of having Joker brutally beat Robin to death and then set his body on fire, then there's no doubt in my mind that it happened at Wayne Manor, and that's why the house looked like that," which would make sense, like, if that's
yep,
how it was, supposedly gonna be. And, then they went on to say that, Joker would probably know who Batman is at that point. And, that's this is one thing too where, like, I really wish, because I've always said that, like, they didn't need to for, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, for instance, right? A lot of people say that, like, Justice League failed because they didn't, like, set up everybody with their own individual movies first.
yeah,
I don't that's not true because, like, Guardians of the Galaxy didn't need a Star-Lord movie and a Drax movie and all this stuff for Guardians of the Galaxy to work. You know what I mean? If
and
anything, they're nobody knows who they are. Like
exactly,
like, so but the one thing that I think really would have, in some ways, worked better for at least the character of Ben Affleck's Batman, and maybe even Zack Snyder, because I felt like BVS was more of a Batman movie than anything, and the fact that we were getting such like it's not like an drastically different take, but it's a different take on Batman than anyone was really used to on screen, obviously. And when I feel like this event, like I feel like Zack should have made a Batman movie for, because I felt like
yeah,
the stuff that he brought to Ben's Batman, like in BVS in particular, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. But if they would have been able to set that up a little bit better and like explain how Robin died and like all these things, because you see this stuff, but you have no context for it. You just get a couple lines from Ben, Ben's Bruce saying that they've been doing this for 20 years and like he's, just you just get like kind of throwaway lines that kind of describe where he's at mentally. But
mhm,
if they could have expanded on that and you actually saw that kind of play out, and then you go into BVS, I feel like that would have been a lot more compelling,
yeah.
in my opinion. And then,
No, I agree, like, show me, don't tell me. Like,
yeah,
I wanna see this stuff. If I'm gonna be invested in this character, I wanna take that journey with him and know, like, what he's going through. Don't just tell me, "Hey, yeah, this guy's been beaten down by life." I mean, we've seen plenty of Batman go through stuff that doesn't break him, so why did these series of events break this particular iteration of Batman?
exactly, and with, and obviously, like, it's, we're left to assume, and it makes sense, that the death of Robin would have been something that would definitely push him over the edge,
Yeah.
but like you said, and it's like the rule number 1 of, like, good storytelling, at least in movies, is show don't tell. Like,
Mhm.
that is, like, rule number 1 for making a movie, so and this is something that was hopefully, like, in the, Batman or Ben Affleck Batman, like, spin-off movie, if that were to ever happen, this is something I would hope that they would actually, like, kind of expand upon.
Yeah.
If they do in any way, it would honestly make the whole experience of, like, going back and watching BVS, just the whole Snyderverse of movies, like, it would kind of make it a much kinda, like, cleaner experience when you have a little bit more of this info. Plus, Ben Affleck directing a Batman movie is more than likely gonna be great on its own because he's a phenomenal director, so
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to just kinda wait and see on what kinda happens with that because, like I said, unless they decide to do that Ben Affleck Batman movie, I don't know if we'll ever get anything else on the whole Robin situation, but I don't know. You got anything else you wanna add on that? Because that was the last of the Snyder Cut, topics here that we have
No,
on.
well, actually, the one thing we didn't talk about that I saw just recently, and it's not a huge thing, but I did see that Amber Heard confirmed that she is coming back to
Yeah,
do some scenes in the movie. Apparently, there is not a past tense. There currently is a petition up on Change.org for her removal,
right.
based on her domestic issues with Johnny Depp and the fallout from some of that, which um, I was surprised to hear, but anyway, she confirmed that she is coming back. So it looks like they've got all the original cast back together
Yeah.
um, to fill this out. And you know what? I'm saying that wrong. She's coming back for Aquaman too.
No, no, she did
She
come back for
is she doing Justice League
she
too?
did, yeah. Because the
Okay,
petition, though, from what I heard, all these petitions going around was for her to be removed from Aquaman 2,
that's what. Okay,
nobody
that's where I'm
was
getting
yeah.
confused.
Yeah,
Okay,
nobody
yeah,
was
you're
saying
right.
anything. And I was because I saw those petitions, everything going around, and I saw some other people say that, like, they were for oddly enough, only petitioning for the Aquaman 2 thing and not like, no
Okay,
one was petitioning Zach, even though he went back to shoot stuff for that, and my main
okay,
thought was that people didn't know, like, they just didn't even know that, she had already gone back and shot those scenes
yeah,
for
okay,
Zach and, Justice League, and, like, with that too, not to get into, like, the TMZ drama, but, like, I honestly feel like it's kind of odd that people are even doing it because, like,
sure.
I
You
don't
know,
know, it's just, like, she's not the one who lost the case that just happened, so it's like,
yeah.
not
It,
that I'm, like, saying she should be or shouldn't be, it's just weird,
And
like
like we were talking about with Johnny Depp last week, I mean, this is like a domestic thing between these two people.
yeah,
If there's a third party that should be involved in this thing, it's police or law enforcement. Beyond that, like I don't know. I don't know why the court of public opinion for either side, her or him,
yeah.
it feels like it needs to weigh in on this situation. Like if you like her movies and you like her acting, go see her. If you don't, don't. If you same for him. If you like what he's doing, go see it. If you don't. But like this outside world coming in and having such an impact on these fantasy worlds just seems very strange to me.
No, it's
Um,
super weird, like,
so
I don't know, it's the kinda thing too is I don't know, it's just I mean, it's a sensitive subject, and I get that, but it's just, like it's just so weird to me that, like, she's getting so much backlash over something that, like, because neither one of
well,
them have
yeah.
gotten criminal charges either. There's not like it
No.
is like a personal thing. Like Johnny Depp lost the UK suit about like a libel thing, saying that he was essentially slandered against. So like
Mhm.
the court said that based on the evidence, they go in support of Amber Heard, and it looks like everything that he was accused of is, in their words, substantively true. But then
Yeah.
Amber Heard gets all this backlash, and it's like
Yeah.
it's so odd to me because it's like you'd think it'd be the other way around, but it's like just
Sure.
because it's Johnny Depp and like people love Johnny Depp and Johnny Depp is a great actor and stuff. I love Johnny Depp and he's great in all his movies. And we're
Hmm.
gonna talk to him about him here something else with the Grindewald stuff, another story coming up. But, like, it's just super odd how that is, like, playing out because, like, you just think it would be reversed. Like
Very much.
it's just so odd to me, like, I don't.
This is one of the first times that I can recall where I've heard at least I'm sure it's happened before, and I'm sure I just am not aware of it. It's one of the first times I recall hearing like both sides of a domestic dispute being kind of looked at and told, we don't want you around anymore because you were involved with this thing, and so it's
Oh, yeah, and that's another thing too. So, like, the news came out, like, last week that, Johnny Depp put out a statement saying that he was, gonna be leaving, the Harry Potter franchise as Grindelwald. He was stepping away from that because Warner Brothers asked him to, because like, apparently, Warner Brothers had done their own investigation into this,
Mhm.
Amber Heard domestic dispute Johnny Depp drama, and they didn't like what they found. Like, I don't no one's came out from Warner Brothers to say that, like, they like, what it was, but, like, there were inside sources at Warner Brothers saying that they had done their own internal investigation, and they essentially were just waiting for an actual court to come out and say something. And then
Yeah.
once the court made something public, that's when they were gonna, like, publicly part ways with Johnny Depp on the whole thing. So, like, it's really odd that, like, everyone like, another thing that makes it odd is that, because people are making these petitions and everything for Amber Heard to be removed, but, like, because, like, these petitions are to Warner Brothers to remove her from Aquaman and all this stuff and blah, 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 but, like, Warner Brothers has already done their own investigation on it. Like,
Yeah.
on their end, they're removing Johnny Depp because they didn't like what they found in that situation. So it's just like I think it, like, honestly just comes down to, and I understand why, because Johnny Depp is a huge fan base and beloved by a lot of people, but, like, I think that's really all it comes down to is people are kind of, like, disillusioned by what they're seeing. Like, they don't have the whole I don't have the whole story either. I'm not defending Amber Heard or Johnny Depp. I'm just saying from a completely unbiased third party looking in on the situation, it's just I don't know, people just looking at it with, like, foggy glasses, like, they're only seeing what they wanna
Sure.
see, like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because if the court cases are saying something, they're the ones who are seeing all the evidence. Like, Warner Brothers did their own internal investigation, they're seeing a ton more evidence than any of us are. Like,
Mhm.
none of us should even see any of that shit. Like, it's
Yeah, we don't
all
have access to that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we shouldn't. Like, cause like you were saying, this is a personal domestic, like, civil suit, and it's kind of
Mhm.
unfortunate and that they're both, like, in the public about it to begin with. Because like, I'm sure that, like sure nobody out there would wanna have their civil, domestic, personal life made public just because you're a
Yeah.
public figure, There's some things that,
Yeah.
like, you don't want televised.
Yeah, it's like the
Like,
wife and the husband that you see yelling at each other in the parking lot of the grocery store. It's like, like what if random paparazzi just started following them like back to
yeah,
their house, and like they started releasing statements to the press, and like nobody cares because it's
yeah,
Joe Schmo and Lucy Schmo, and and because this one they happen to make movies, it becomes this very public thing, so
right. And
very odd.
it's unfortunate for both because, like, in the end, like, it obviously depends on the degree of, like, how bad everything was like, in any case, like, it's always a shame if someone's, like, entire career is, like, lost because of just one bad day kinda thing. Because that's the thing, it's
Sure.
like if somehow, let's say all this stuff that Amber Heard is accusing Johnny Depp of is all true, then
Hmm.
it's like, who's to say if it's never happened ever up until then, does it make him completely irredeemable? Does it because, I
Well,
mean, it
that's
doesn't replace, like, how bad the action was by any means at all, like, you should never physically abuse your wife like, definitely not. Shouldn't really hurt anybody like that, but it's like kinda like the criminal system in general, like, you go and you serve your time and you're supposed to that's your penance, and then you're released back into society, and it's like, but does it undo all the good that you've done, and should you never be allowed to do any good after that, it's a sticky situation.
very, very much so. We live in a society where we have a judicial system and a justice system that's set up to, for the most part, offer rehabilitation and redemption for people to get them back integrated into society in a purposeful and meaningful way. Um, but society more and more seems to be trending the opposite direction, which is, you make a mistake, you mess up, that scarlet letter hangs around your neck until, until society moves on to whatever else comes next, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Like none of it makes sense to me, like I said, because I'm not a part of it, and I don't really think anybody should try to make sense of it. And I don't think anybody who's completely outside of it should be asking for anybody's career to be over. It has nothing to do with anybody. Because like you
yeah,
said, if you don't like the situation, then don't support Amber Heard. Like if you don't,
yeah,
it's that simple. If you don't like the situation, then don't support Johnny Depp. Like it's just don't
yeah.
support them anymore. It's perfectly fine. You don't have to read the TMZ article about it and get mad. Just don't support
Mhm.
them.
Yep.
Move on. So, but anyways, let's move on to our next topic on that note. So, let's let this. I know we just covered a lot of stuff, guys, but with all the Snyder cut and everything, let us know, like, what you think. Do you think it's really only going to be 4 to 5 minutes? Like, that's kind of the big question I have now. What is the point of bringing all these, especially people who weren't even in the original Snyder cut, like your Jared Leto's, your Joe Manganiello's, like all these people? What's the point in bringing them back only for 4 to 5 minutes of footage? It seems like maybe there'd be a little bit more than that. So let us know what you guys think of all this down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our next topic here keeps us in the world of DC, but it's kind of in the new. I don't know if it's even still going to be the DCEU after this, but it's the non-Snyderverse in some ways. Although it still kind of is a Snyderverse in a lot of ways. But it's the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie. We heard a while back that they were going to be having a John Cena Peacemaker spinoff, and I don't believe before this that we had any confirmation whether it was going to be a prequel or follow up afterwards. I know we were speculating before, like, does this mean, Peacemaker's not gonna die? Because I guess they could still do a spinoff as if it's a prequel, but, it's essentially been confirmed at this point that, it is going to be a prequel series. And on another note with this, I think it was just last week. Well, I didn't know it was earlier this week when, the, Xbox came out, 'cause, James Gunn put out a tweet, thanking Microsoft for the Xbox and everything, and he said that he was currently in, uh, Canadian quarantine. Not because he's sick or anything, but because if you cross border into Canada now, you have to quarantine for 14 days. They take you to like a, you know, offsite facility for everybody to quarantine. But the new Xbox is keeping him company there. But he said he was there because they're about to start filming on this series. So like very quickly, this thing's already about to be, underway, which is pretty exciting in a lot of ways. Like they're moving pretty quick on it. So I don't know if they're moving quick on it because they really like what they see, which I assume they did if it was worth giving John Cena's character his own series about it. So I'm assuming they really liked everything they were seeing of him and the character as they were
Mhm.
shooting the Suicide Squad movie. And like I said too, the question's still up in the air of like how connected this is really going to be to the original Suicide Squad movie because there are returning characters to it, but it seems that ever since, Justice League happened, that DC has been really focusing on standalone movies and not even really referencing anything of that, that world as a whole. So I'm curious to see where this all comes to at that point. And then there's some more news that we got Robert Patrick's going to be in the series, which is always great to see him. And then kind of the more interesting thing here is that Vigilante is going to be making an appearance in the show. So, John, I know you had some words about this. So what are your thoughts on them getting started on this, and then the news of the cast and some of the characters that are going to be coming out in the series?
Well, I find it, I don't know if funny is the right word. I find it's funny that we found out this week that it's going to be an origin story for John Cena's character. We were just talking about, James Gunn talking about no one was off limits to kill. So yeah,
Right.
we could throw John Cena's character right back in that mix of possible
Absolutely.
characters to be killed. This series doesn't mean he'll be sticking around at all. So that's one name we can't scratch off that
It
list.
might even be more likely that he dies now that we know this is a prequel. Like,
That's true. That's
you know,
true.
so we'll have to see.
Um, Yeah, I'm excited actually to see the Vigilante character. Vigilante is a very small, very much lesser known character from DC Comics, but I always liked the character in the short little pop ups that he would have in the comics, and I'm really interested to see what they do with him here. He appeared, I think, in like one, maybe two episodes of the Arrow TV show.
Oh
Again,
yeah.
that's the way he's used. He's used in these small little pop-ups in comics and TV shows so far. So I'm curious with him being kind of announced as part of the cast if he's going to be like a main player in this. I would venture to say that he's a more well-known character than Peacemaker is. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
we'll see how they play all that out when the show comes around. But I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be fun. I think James Gunn's humor and sensibilities lend itself to a pretty entertaining show. Um, just curious how they're going to play it out. How much of the show he's going to be responsible and involved with. If he's going to be like a kind of the overall story, the how the show is going to play itself out over the series of episodes, or if he's really going to get down in the nitty gritty and write some of the episodes himself or direct some of them.
Well, he wrote the entire script for it. So he
Oh,
did
really?
confirm that, and yeah, so I don't know at this
Okay.
point if he's only going because a lot of times you'll have these for TV in particular. And I know this is kind of a special thing because it's on HBO Max and streaming services sometimes do things a bit differently with their series. Like in a lot of cases, like we're seeing with the upcoming Obi-Wan series, they have one showrunner for the whole thing who's going to be directing all of the episodes for it, whether that's 4 or 8 episodes, we don't really know yet. But most of the time in TV, like we see with Mandalorian, you have your showrunner, but different directors come in and film like each episode, especially for like network television. But with streaming, it's been a lot different. Like you can have these people come in and film the whole thing, kind of like they would film a movie. So you can have the same director there the entire time to do the whole thing. So that's kind of the question. But a lot of times, though, these showrunners, so you'll have people come in, like your James Gunn, film the first episode, actually direct the first episode, set the tone for the rest of the series, and other directors can come in. But with him actually going, to the set here, assuming in Vancouver, where DC notoriously shoots most of their, CW shows are always shooting there, so I'm assuming they're going to Vancouver to do this. But with him actually going to be there on set to start the production, I'm kind of curious if he's actually going to be filming and directing the entire series at this point, or if he's just going to be doing like that first episode and then off he goes. So we'll just have to wait and kind of see at this point. I would say that I'd almost like to just see him do the whole thing because like James Gunn has his own sensibilities, and if this is you know a character he kind of created and brought to the screen for the Suicide Squad movie, I'd like to just see him kind of just keep it going. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and kind of see. And the only other thing with Vigilante, he made I think the most appearances, at least I don't know what I'm most familiar with him with was in the Justice League animated series. He was actually
That's
in
right.
that like quite a bit. Like he didn't
You're
have like a ton to do, but that was kind of the most that like I don't know I'd ever really seen him have to do, like other than just kind of popping up here and there. Like he actually had a couple things where he was like the main guy in that episode. Like so yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do with him. So I could
I'm
probably.
curious. I'm curious too. How is this a like a mini series? I know they've said it's a series,
Hmm.
but they haven't said like they haven't definitively said it's a mini series. They haven't said it's an ongoing. Um, I wonder if they're going to try and hold off until they see what the reception is before they commit to doing more, or if it's going to be like Watchmen, where James Gunn has a story in mind, and if it works, it works, and then but he's done after it's over, and they're going to leave it to rest. I don't know.
The only thing I can think of is if it like pops off and it's just like great, and it's going to be, I think, maybe more difficult. It depends on the time frame, I guess. I was going to say it could be more difficult if they kill him off in the movie for them to continue it on. But at the same time, if they say this is set 10 years before that movie, that gives them a lot of time to play with if this thing pops off and they want to keep doing more.
Sure.
So I'm interested to see where it goes. Like I assume too, with my only guess here with Vigilante, just knowing how he's been used, is that he's going to be like a foil to Peacemaker in some way, or maybe someone who kind of shows him the ropes of like vigilanteism, or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But I'm super excited. The only other thing is I really love John Cena's comedic timing. Like there are
Yes.
some things like in think it was Sisters, with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. I think it was called
Yep.
Sisters, but like he was amazing in that. Like he came in as just like this big steroid like drug dealer dude, and like just Google that scene if you've never seen it. Just John Cena and Sisters. It's like the funniest shit, dude. Like so, like I'm hoping that like Peacemaker's kind of like that guy, and then like I'm sure I'm gonna love him because like
Yeah.
John Cena nailed that. So that's what I'm looking forward to most, just to see. I've been waiting to. I think he hasn't. John Cena himself hasn't been able to get like a role that kind of like launched his career like The Rock got as far as movies go.
The Rock got what, Scorpion King and The Mummy that kind of set him on his
Hmm.
action path. Yeah,
Yeah, and then he's
and
only
John
gotten
Cena,
better and
you're
better and
right.
better.
Yeah, and John Cena, I feel like, given these opportunities, I mean, from everything I've heard too, all the advanced buzz about Suicide Squad is that he could possibly be a show stealer for this movie. Like
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
lots of praise for how good he is, at least advanced praise for how good he is in Suicide Squad. So
Yeah, I mean, no one else has gotten their own spin-off series yet, so I mean,
there you
it's safe
go.
to say he probably does steal the movie. So, speaking of which, with the Scorpion, this isn't one of our main topics by any means, but I saw something come up on this with Scorpion King. Now that you mention it, The Rock put out a tweet recently that he was going to be like producing another Scorpion King
A
related thing.
reboot of it.
Yeah,
Yep,
and it didn't
I saw
confirm whether
that.
or not he was going to be reprising the role, but he has like a writer on staff or something. His production company is gonna be backing it. So
I think he's on board to reboot it, but I don't think he was going to be playing the role. I didn't read the article real close, but I think those were the little highlights I got out of it, or
mhm,
the little bullet points that they had. So, but yeah, I did see that they might be trying to bring that back.
yeah, which is weird. Like, of all the things, it's kinda weird because I mean, they had
Yeah.
for one, his first CGI appearance in The Mummy 2, I think it was, god
Hmm.
awful. It was just god awful. Then the Scorpion King movie that he actually did, like, it wasn't a very good, like, it wasn't all that good, but funnily enough, I really like those Mummy movies. Like, I was kinda
Yeah.
bummed when, they brought the Mummy
Right.
back with Tom Cruise, and it didn't have any of those sensibilities. I know they were going for something completely different, but
Sure.
I don't know, Brendan Fraser and, like, the whole cast of, like, those movies, man, like, I thought those were
They
really
had
good
fun.
movies. Yeah, they were fun
Yeah.
movies, unlike
Yeah.
the most recent Mummy that really wasn't. It was so dry and bland.
Hmm.
Just r I don't know. Story for another time. So, let's move on to the next topic here, but first, guys, let us know what you think about this Peacemaker stuff, and, they're moving quick on it. Like I said, they're gonna be actually starting production here in about a week, 'cause, it's been about a week worth of the quarantine for him, James Gunn at this point, so they're moving really quick on this, and just let us know what you guys think of, the inclusion of Vigilante and, what's his name? The Terminator 2 guy, Robert Patrick coming back, like, or not coming back, but making having a role in it. Because I always love to see Robert Patrick. He's great. He doesn't get enough work sometimes. I mean, he's definitely been great. He was super great in Terminator 2. I mean, obviously, but like I feel like
Yep.
he just pops up in little things here and there ever since then, and I just always love seeing him on screen. So I'm totally hyped to see him come back. So let us know what you guys think of all this stuff down in the comment section below. All right, everybody, our next topic here, we're gonna shoot across the universe into a galaxy far, far away here because we got a pretty interesting topic here. And one that once I read through this and kind of heard what was going on here, I was honestly kind of bummed me out. If I'm not gonna, if I'm being totally honest here. So we got some like, I guess like confirmation, some news here of what George Lucas's plans for what his sequel trilogy was going to be. And it's worth noting here that when Disney bought Lucasfilm, he gave over like all the scripts and previous stuff he had written for this sequel trilogy, and like essentially, not that they couldn't, but they because they bought everything from him, but he gave it all to him so they could use it, and if they wanted to, right? Obviously, especially now that we have this information, we know that they did not use any of it. And I think George has already came out and said uh, that they didn't use any of that stuff. Like once the sequel trilogy came out, I mean, he obviously knew that he knew what he wrote, and what he wrote is not what was presented to us on screen. And now that we have this information here, John, I'll tell you what. This sounds like a much better movie. Like, not that, like, I
Uh,
hated everything about the sequel trilogy by any means, but this
this would have been a better series by
oh,
far.
yeah. This would have been I mean, it had a lot more potential, that's for sure, at
Yeah.
least in my opinion. 'Cause, just to give a rundown here if you guys haven't seen it, so Darth Maul would have been essentially the big bad in this, which I think would have made everybody happy because ever since the prequels, I think everybody was pretty bummed out when they introduced such a cool looking character, and they did what they did with the Emperor with Darth Maul in a lot of ways, like the Emperor from the original trilogy, where you didn't really know anything about him.
Yep.
Like he was just like an ominous guy there. You knew that was like powerful and whatnot, and they did. Darth Maul had like he had one line, I think. Doesn't he just say "Yes, Master" in Phantom Menace, and that's it? I don't think he says
Yeah,
anything else.
it's
Like
yeah.
but he has, like, no lines, he looks cool as hell, and he's got this dope double-bladed lightsaber, he has this badass fight with, Obi-Wan and, Qui-Gon Jinn, but then they just kill him, quote, unquote. I mean, he lived on in the animated series and everything and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
but this just would have been so much cooler. So we have Darth Maul being the big bad guy, trained a girl Sith who would have been Darth Talon, who was in like the comics and everything as his apprentice. And
Such a cool name too.
it is a great name, yeah, it's super great. But the like George goes on to describe her as essentially being the new Darth Vader, whereas Darth Maul takes on the role of being the Emperor. So as soon as like the Empire is fallen, Maul kind of fills the void and takes that power. Which, if you've seen the Clone Wars stuff and everything and Rebels, it actually is exactly like what his character would have done. Like
Yeah.
you totally see like that's kind of what he was doing the entire time. Like he takes over Mandalore and everything. Like he's trying to seize a very similar power. He feels that he was betrayed by Sidious because he was betrayed by Sidious in a lot of ways, and he's trying to seize his own power, and make it his own empire. Essentially, doesn't really get the chance to too much, but maybe if he had Darth Talon by his side and the Empire's fallen, he definitely would be able to do that. Actually, according to George, that's exactly what would have happened. So, and I feel like too, that's a much better. It's much better. I don't know what the ending for this would have been for Maul, obviously, but it would have been better than the ending we got for Maul because
Yeah.
he got kind of sideswiped and beat by Old Man Kenobi pretty easily. And I would have much rather seen this even over like because I like the stuff they did with Darth Maul and like Rebels and everything and the Clone Wars and stuff. Like it was fine, but it's not as cool as like this would have been, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
know we don't have a lot of information here with it, but and then goes on to say that like by the end of the trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt much of the Jedi. There would have been a renewal of the New Republic. Princess Leia, Senator Organa would have became the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything. And so, in fact, Leia ends up becoming the chosen one, essentially, according to Lucas, which is super cool as well. Like all
Mhm.
this is cool. Um, that's pretty much all we really get about it. Like that, yeah, that's all the info we really have on it. But like, that's just. Oh, I guess too. I guess I should add that Luke Skywalker would have been trying to rebuild the whole Jedi Order from scratch and like training, a new Jedi's to do their thing, just like Yoda and all them had in the prequels.
Yeah.
But yeah, this would have been really cool, man. And like when I read through this, like obviously, like I was like I said, I was kind of bummed out. Like I was super bummed out because we got Darth Maul has always been one of my favorite characters. Just like I said, kind of when we started this off, he looks cool. He was always such a dark and ominous character. I did like the stuff that they did with him in Clone Wars and Rebels. Obviously, like he's just a great character. He's cool, and but they didn't use him well, in my opinion, in the prequels. And if George always kind of had some underlying plan to bring him back, then what they did with him in the prequels kind of makes more sense. Like it would have been a lot better. Like
Yeah.
so, I don't know. I was kind of bummed out. What did you think about all this stuff?
I'm gonna go off on a little bit of a tangent or a rant or a tangent here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying. I don't even know. I have so many thoughts and feelings on this. I'm not really sure I know where to start. First of all, I think yes, this would have been a much cooler resolution to the Skywalker saga, as it were, than what we ended up getting. I There are days I wake up and I feel like it seems like there are a lot more, especially since Disney has gotten involved. Where I wake up and I think Star Wars should have just ended with Jedi. It should have been those three movies, the original trilogy, and that should have been it. It should have been left alone after that because they were perfect and it left everything alone, and that should have been it. And looking back on it now, the prequel trilogy, as much as the issues that it has, I actually still like the second and third one. And the first one, I can make it through just to get the story. Um, but and this is where I go off on my little trip down memory lane here. But
Mm.
I remember when I was like, I don't know. I must have been, I feel like I was 5, but maybe I was 6 or 7, who knows? And I remember picking up an issue of Time magazine because it had Darth Vader on the cover. It had all the Star Wars characters on the cover. And Time magazine is not written for a 6 and 7-year-old kid. Um, but that magazine was like the most precious thing in the world to me because here's Star Wars. This is amazing. This entire magazine has got Star Wars in it. And I remember reading in there, I don't remember anything else about it, but I remember reading George Lucas and him saying there that Star Wars is a 9-part story. And that we had
Okay.
gotten, little did I know, that because I wasn't smart enough at that age to recognize that episode 1, that the original Star Wars was actually titled episode 4. I just, it was Star Wars, and then there was Empire, and then there was Jedi. I didn't realize it was episode 4, 5, and 6. And so that blew my mind to know that there were 9 parts to this story, and I had only seen 3 of them at that point. So when the prequels were announced, I was over the moon, ecstatic because hey, I'm starting to get, this is what that 7-year-old me wanted. I wanted to know what these other 6 stories were that were missing from this, and we got them. And there were issues with them, but they still felt like Star Wars, and they were still, they ultimately, I think Sith did, Revenge of the Sith gave us a really cool story about how Anakin became Vader. And my issues aren't with necessarily how the story played out. My issues are more with like the directing and the acting, the way it was overacted or not acted as well as maybe I had hoped it would be. The overuse of CGI, but that's all nitpicky stuff that the kid in me doesn't care about. He cares about the story, and I got that. And knowing that there was this other story out there that involved Darth Maul, a character that had been established in Phantom Menace, and that George had given Disney the rest of that story, that 7-year-old kid who wanted those 9 parts existed out there, and George had them, and he gave them to Disney, and Disney said, "No, we're not doing it." I'm gonna have a hard time getting over that, and
Oh yeah.
there's a part of me that I keep telling myself, and I know it's not realistic, but there's a part of me that's always going to hope and pray that maybe one day Disney figures out a way to go back and do them. Maybe one day we'll actually get George's episodes, what, 7, 8, and 9. I know it's never going to happen. We've lost our shot at having Carrie Fisher back. Um,
Well,
you know,
this, not to interrupt, but this
no, no, you go ahead, man.
it could happen, but it's not going to be for 10, 20 years when they decide to reboot, like do a remake, we'll say. Because like a lot of times, when they go and do these like reboots, they follow the original, they update it, right? Like
Sure.
A Star is Born. The movie's been made like 3 different times, right? But it's all, a lot of these movies get rebooted and they're essentially remade more than rebooted. And I don't think that Star Wars is necessarily off limits for that. I could totally see Disney in 20 years when they've, run the not run the franchise into the ground. They're fine, but when they've run out of ideas, just like Hollywood likes to do with a lot of things, they just go back and just remake what they
We'll
do.
do it again.
And like they'll
Yep.
just go through, and if it works, do it again. Like,
Do it for a new generation and new audience.
right.
And you're totally right. And if they do that, maybe that 7-year-old me
It's possible.
we'll be around long enough to see that happen.
It's possible.
I hope maybe I am. Um, it's a rock and a hard place situation because while there are days, like I said, I wake up and I think it should have just been that original trilogy and that's it. Then I wake up, I go to bed last night after just having watched the new episode of The Mandalorian, and I realized, yeah, but if they had stopped there, I wouldn't have had that episode, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But I love the Mandalorian show, and I can't imagine not having, not being able to see that, having all that stuff removed from the mythos and the stories and stuff. So it's a give and take. You got to take the good with the bad, and it's pretty heartbreaking to me to know that those exist, that those outlines or stories, or I don't know how fleshed out he had them, that they exist, and yet we're never going to see them. So
I'm totally with you. I would almost hope too, maybe before, the wishful thinking of them rebooting or remaking, the original trilogy and the prequels, and then instead of doing the remakes of the sequel trilogy, do George's instead, because that's probably the biggest stretch. Like I could totally see them redoing the original trilogy, maybe
mhm.
even redoing the prequels. But, if they were to do that, like, they more than likely would just remake the what we got, which and I was kinda bummed out too, because I think I was telling you about this too when I first heard the story, like, or maybe I was telling Rick, I can't remember. But, like, they could have easily done like, put their own spin, included Rey and Kylo and all that stuff,
Sure,
and then, still stuck with this as opposed to, like, have Maul come in and do his like, have, like keep this as, like, the backbone, and then they can still if they wanted Rey to be the chosen one as opposed to Leia, then, like, do that. Like,
sure.
it could've I don't
There's
know.
no reason Ray could have been one of, if the story involves Luke training a new generation of Jedi. There's no reason Ray could have been part of that new generation.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
then Ben could have been there too, and honestly, just I liked
and they
Kylo Ren as a character, but, like, he would have been so much cooler just as Ben Solo the whole time. Like,
sure,
it would have been almost like kind of a thing where, like, because they could have had him still, like, battle with it. Like, I'm making this up off the top of my head, but I think it sounds better than what we got. But you have Ben Solo being trained by Luke in this Jedi thing, and then, like, he knowing who his grandfather is and who Luke is, and knowing the story of, like, the Chosen One and all this stuff. You could have him struggling with the light side and the dark side stuff because he wants to be the chosen one himself and like be like
yeah,
being the one who brings balance to the force and like whatever. So you could have him having his own internal struggles and stuff, but just have him be Ben Solo the whole time and not do the Kylo Ren thing where he actually is a dark agent of the dark side and all that stuff. Like throw that shit out because they end up throwing it out anyway. So they should have just never
yeah,
gone with it to begin with. And it would have been much cooler just to see that play out, like him having his own internal struggles with this stuff. And then yeah, you have Rey come in who ends up being like the true chosen one, and she could have still ended up being Palpatine's daughter, and that would have put a whole new spin on like what I mean? There's honestly like that's a better movie right there. Like
yeah.
that's way better.
But
Like
you know, but yet again, this also would have required Disney to plan out
yeah,
these
which
sequels
the
ahead of
biggest
time,
mistake.
which they didn't. You still could have had Finn. Finn could have been a defector from
Which is such a
Darth Maul's
throwaway.
organization. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Because
mean,
Finn was a great character. Like it
yeah,
started out as a great character.
you don't have to lose any of the characters. You don't have to lose anybody. If they wanted, and I understand why Disney. As much as they want to tell the good stories, and they want their movies to do. Obviously, they want their movies to do well. They also want the marketing opportunities that come along with Star Wars, and so they want the new characters to create the new figures to sell and create the new shirts to sell and whatever. They want the new marketing opportunities, but you don't have to lose that. You can weave that into the same story. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like they had like JJ brought a lot of good. Their biggest problem, in my opinion, with the whole sequel trilogy is that they didn't have that plan, that ironed out
yeah,
plan for everything. They had the three different directors and writers come in and pretty much just like JJ set everything up, and then the other guys were just able to do whatever they wanted essentially. And that was
yeah,
like the biggest mistake because like I feel like JJ set up a lot of like interesting stuff in the Force Awakens. Like their initial what we got in Force Awakens was like I'll say it was a good movie. Like it was fine. And
mhm,
some of the stuff they set up, like especially like Finn's character, in Force Awakens was like a really cool idea, like a defected stormtrooper going to the rebellion. Like we hadn't seen that, so that was like a new idea that was good, you know. So like I was, and John Boyega played the role good. It was a good role. Then like Poe Dameron
Yeah.
was a good character. You know, they had a lot of good things set up, but then they just abandoned it all in the second one, and in the third one they abandoned everything they did in the first one, and it was a whole mess. So like that was their biggest problem, in my opinion.
I can't off the top of my head think of another series of books. Yeah, the only thing I can think of that comes close to what Disney did is comic books. Like occasionally in comic books, you'll have three different writers write three consecutive issues of a series, and they don't always they feel kind of disjointed because you've gotten that. But even comic books, for the most part, writers write an arc, and then they leave the book, and the book gets turned over to somebody else. On TV shows, you might have multiple writers and multiple directors working on episodes, but you've got, like we were talking about in the previous segment, you've got a showrunner that knows what the overarching story is, and provides some direction, some cohesion through this. And this is, I don't know if Kathleen Kennedy was supposed to do that, but it really didn't feel like she was doing it. It felt like the way those movies were cobbled together, that it was just scattershot. Like you
Yeah.
said, Abrams sets it up, and then Rain Johnson comes in, and Rain, do whatever you want. And besides being having to adhere to the fact that he had the characters in place, beyond that he was able to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah,
So
which is so weird that you'd think that it could even be possible, like with Disney owning Marvel and having someone like Kevin Feige in place, and they have like a perfect outline of just how to make something work, and they just
sure, the
under
template's
their own
there.
umbrella, yeah, like
Yeah,
they have it there. So I don't know, like which I guess like moving into our next, we have another Star Wars topic, which is kind of a better like indication of like things to come. Because one of the other things that I always complain about with the Disney era of Star Wars, other than like how kind of poor the sequel trilogy ended up being as a whole, was that they continue to just like live in this like too afraid to go out and tell a new story. It feels like with Star Wars, like even with the sequel trilogy, they brought back all the like original cast, but they didn't do anything with them, so it made that kind of worse. So it's like another story for another day, I guess. But like
yeah,
they have this this High Republic thing coming out in the books, and it's only a measly like 300 to 400 years before the original trilogy, and like they make Mandalorian, and it's set in the same time period as everything we're familiar with. They keep doing things that are like familiar as opposed to telling like new stories in Star Wars, like an Old Republic thing, or going way into the future and just telling a new, fresh Star Wars story. Like all the,
sure.
I mean, I get like well, even like the Clone Wars and Rebels and all these things. Like everything is like, and I get that you wanna it works, so you wanna like expand on it more, but like there's still room for you to tell completely new stories. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause even
Hmm.
with like even like the Fallen Order game, it's like the same thing. It was at least a new character that you were, but it still plays in that same sandbox that we know of. Like I don't know, it always bums me out, but there is some hope with that. And the new there's an upcoming Disney Plus Star Wars series coming up soon that we had some word a while back that they were going to be making. There's literally no like news on what the story is going to be about necessarily, but it was supposed to be a female led and centric Star Wars project on Disney Plus. And now at this point, we still don't have a lot of information on it, but the I believe it was the showrunner or one of the writers or the co-directors. They came out and said that what they're focusing on, and if I can find the quote here, that well, essentially that in this one, for she says that it's gonna be like a in its own pocket of the universe, in its own timeline that we don't know much about. So, like, and that's really, like, all the information we got. But that's all I've ever wanted with Star Wars.
Yeah,
That's been my biggest, like, complaint because I like Mandalorian. It's good, and like, Force Awakens was okay, but the other ones weren't really I didn't really care for. And, like I've said, like I just ranted on about for a little bit, I've just wanted new, fresh Star Wars stuff, and it seems like Disney, like, more so than anything, because you gotta think, like, back before, like, pre-Star Wars era Disney, they had the, expanded canon, the what's now
yep,
Legends, where they introduced a lot more. They still played in the same timeline sandbox, but there were a lot of like new, fresh characters like coming up all the time. Like
Yeah.
some of them bad, like fine, sure, but I feel like they definitely took a lot more risk before. And I feel like
Well,
Star
I
Wars,
think
they've just been playing it safe.
yeah, I think I mean you and I both are big fans of Knights of the Old Republic, and that's a perfect
So
example
good.
of taking the and that was done. I mean, what that game, the first one's what, 15 years old at this point, maybe.
Something like
Um,
that.
maybe even a little more. But that's a perfect example of not of taking the universe and the world that's been established and not being beholden to just one timeline or one not timeline but time era, just being stuck in that one era. Do something well outside the bounds of it and and give yourself the freedom to create something new and a little bit different, familiar but still a little bit different, and give people a deeper dive into that world. And I'm excited about this news. I hope that they have the guts and the courage to not be beholden to marketing dollars and that sort of thing, and do something original and fresh. Um,
Yeah.
and inject some of that excitement that I think is missing from Star Wars to a certain extent, back into the franchise. I think the Mandalorian show. I think I mean, we've talked about whether or not we talked about last week whether or not it's a good show if you remove the Star Wars elements from it and stuff. And I think it's done a very good job of injecting excitement into it. I think the surprise of Baby Yoda and the idea of Yoda not just as a character but as a race really injected some much needed excitement and mystery into the series. But this is a way to do so, like you're saying, well outside of the era that we're used to, and really give a look at a whole different Star Wars through a whole different lens. So
Yeah, because like I with that too, like you were saying with Mandalorian, like the writer of this article even says, and this is kind of how I felt about like the whole era of Star Wars. Like this line here, they says like, but when it was first revealed that Disney Plus would be making a live action Star Wars show, I was hoping for something different. Like instead, the Mandalorian feels like a shut up and play the hits kind of show.
yeah,
Which, like I said, it's good and I do like it, but I totally agree with this. Like Boba Fett's back, like like Bo-Katan's, and like all these things, like can't just be this like lone Mandalorian guy telling like there's so much cool stuff they could just expand on with Mandalore itself, which would potentially, if you stayed in this time frame, include Bo-Katan in some aspects, but like no one knows anything about that stuff because for one, it's really only been expanded on in the Clone Wars animated show for the most part, at least canon
yeah,
wise. So like, I don't know. Like there's so much stuff they could do in like the Old Republic. I mean, just everything that's been said, even though not all of it's technically canon at this point, some of it is. Like Darth Bane is canon, so like there's a couple things that are there that do exist in canon, but like putting yourself 3,000 years before the original trilogy, you can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? That's kind of like the downside with making like a lot of prequels and things like that is you always like if you're too close to, the present time or whatever, then you lose a lot of like suspense and surprise because you kind of know where everything's going to go. Especially if you're doing something with like the High Republic that they're doing is literally going to like one of the stories is going to focus on a Yoda who's like 300-400 years old or something. It's like I don't care about Yoda, like, when he's 3 or
yeah,
400 years old, like, it's not I'd rather see something else, like, it could be a great story, like, Yoda's cool and everything, but, like, we got his story, like, I don't need to know, like, what he was doing 300 years before the prequels, like, who cares? Like, who
yeah,
cares? Like, I don't I really, like, legitimately don't care, and at this point Baby Yoda is already, like, super hype, like, we don't like, it's just and I feel like that's the only reason they're including it, it's just like, well, if Baby Yoda is so cool, then, like, we gotta just let's do more Yoda, like,
give more Yoda. Yeah,
it's just I don't know. So, yeah, the only thing, like, I don't know, like, and kinda like with what you were saying with, Disney needing those marketing bucks, like, some could argue that this, female-driven thing is only being done for, like, marketing purposes, and I'd hope it's not, I hope they just tell, like, a cool story because I don't really care either. I could give or take it being a female driven thing. Like that's really beside the point. I just need a good story and good characters. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like Bo-Katan, like, I'd like to see, like, a Bo-Katan series, like, who just made her appearance on, The Mandalorian, like, that's a girl character who, like, is powerful, like, female character at that too, and that would be a cool story just to watch, but I wouldn't watch it just because it's female driven, like, I really don't care
Sure.
that they're marketing the show like that, in all honesty. I just want them to make a cool story. 'Cause then you always got too, like, these, like, I don't know, just dumb people on the internet essentially who are just pretty much writing off the show because it's being described as that to begin with, and it's like, I don't know, it's just kinda dumb. I could give or take it being a female-driven show. I just want new and
Yeah.
fresh Star Wars stories to be told. Like, so
Yeah.
I don't care how they
Pe-
gotta do it, just do it.
People are so concerned now with either it's both sides. Like, I mean, you got one set of people out there that are so concerned with things being done, and their I'm trying to think of the word I want. But their perception that it's forced diversity,
Mhm.
and then you got people on the other side and their perception that it's lack of diversity. And I, like you said, I try not to. I don't want to spend my time analyzing the shows I'm watching and the entertainment I'm taking in by through that lens. I want to sit down and watch it, and if it's good, enjoy it because it's good, and
Exactly.
like it and watch it because it's good, and I want to, not because of some predisposition I have to want to support it just because it has some elements I feel like it has to have or something.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
don't
like
know.
I'm not gonna write it all. Like, I don't understand why. That's the thing that annoys me is like people write things off because of like that. It's like you guys are just pandering to this audience. So it's like I'm not even gonna waste my time with it. But it's like you haven't even seen it. You know
You,
nothing about it. Like
and
just
that's such a
watch it.
such a narrow-minded way to do it because you could be missing out on something that's terrific. Like,
Yeah, like you don't know.
yeah, you have no idea. Just, oh,
I don't know. It's sometimes the internet's a scary place. It's
yes, it
honestly a
is.
place you just shouldn't spend too much time on sometimes, so that's for
Yeah.
sure. But, anyways, guys, what do you guys think of all this? Especially, like, me and John and I both were pretty bummed out about, where the sequel trilogy could have gone if, they would have focused on this included more of George's original outlines for it, which I almost at this point wish we never would have known because like I said, I'm kinda bummed out because I feel like, that would have gone in a better direction, especially I mean, hindsight's 2020. After we know what we got with the sequel trilogy, it's very easy to say that, like, obviously, that would have been better. So that's so I'll give it that much. Like, who's to say it would have been better? It sounds like it would have been better, but like, and then with the new series coming out and the showrunner or writer on it saying that they're going to be focusing on it's this own little pocket universe of unexplored Star Wars stuff. That has me excited. So that's one thing I've been wanting from Star Wars ever. God, ever since the sequel trilogy was announced, like, and before then, ever since the Old Republic was made, that's the Old Republic being as successful and great as it was, it's kind of what fueled my interest for more new, fresh Star Wars stories. And we still just haven't gotten it ever since then, really. So, what do you guys think of all that? Just let us know down in the comment section below. All right,
This is
guys. So our next topic here is going to shoot us back into the DC universe, and I guess more particular this time, actually, into the DCEU, back into the DCEU, because we got some news. I don't know, some potential hints, I guess, and then some rumblings here and there of what Warner Brothers is going to be doing here with Wonder Woman 84. And it's been one of those movies that was supposed to come out this year, obviously affected by the pandemic, and they've had to push it back. Like I don't know, maybe two or three times. It's had to shift its release date or something like that. And right now, to this day, it is still sitting on a December 25th release date. And John and I, in particular, speculated about a week or two ago. I can't remember when it was, but we essentially didn't think that there's really no way this thing's going to be holding this December 25th release date. I think it was when on Wonder Woman uh, day, set like 50th year anniversary or
Yeah, it was
something.
a couple weeks ago with that teaser trailer they dropped, or that, not teaser trailer, that
Sizzle reel thing, yeah.
sizzle reel
Yeah.
celebration trailer for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, because they at the very end of it, they had, an advertisement for Wonder Woman 84, and it just said, like, "Coming soon,"
Coming soon. Yep.
as opposed to coming to theaters December 25th, like any normal marketing thing would do for it. So, like,
Sure.
we've pretty much been suspecting at this point, like, there's no way they're keeping that date, and now the theaters are shutting down, and the virus is spreading worse than ever because, America, USA, like, uh, yeah, so I just there's probably there's no doubt, and I feel like we got at this point just even more indication that, it's probably gonna get pushed back, because the first thing that came out, like, 5 days ago here was that, DC was postponing some, Wonder Woman 1984 variants, like, in the comics and, books and everything, and pretty much anything related to Wonder Woman 84, they're moving them back, and a
Yeah.
lot of just, the comic book world and everything, so,
The
like,
the funny thing is DC has had these solicited, so I'm not sure how many of our audience are familiar with how comics come out, but usually comics release what they call a solicitation, which basically tells you what's going to be in the comic as well as who the creators are on it, about 2 or 3 months before the actual books hit the stands. And so DC has solicited; they've had the artwork for these books, and they've posted them to the public for people to pre-order, um, going all the way back into the beginning of this year, because the anticipation was that the movie was going to come out. I think what, June was the original release date, I think.
yeah, it was supposed to come out
Um,
right around a little after, Black Widow, I think.
yeah, yeah. So they solicited them then, and then they canceled all those pre-orders on them, and then they solicited them again when they thought it was going to relaunch this fall, and then they canceled all those, and then they've done it yet again when they said it was going to be Christmas, and here we are with them being canceled yet again. And the reason they do these books, the reason they have these books, is to promote the movie, to provide that extra little push to remind all the people that are picking up the comics, as if they would forget, but just to remind them that, hey, there's this giant movie going on, and maybe that flip side is more true. Maybe it's to
To push the comics.
keep push the comics. People that go
Yeah,
see the movies that might find their way into a comic book store will see this image of Wonder Woman from the movie on the book in front of them, and give them an inclination or a motivation to pick it up. But
yeah.
anyway, yeah, as soon as we said that, and then as soon as we saw this news hit, I think we were both, it just reinforced in our minds what we had already talked about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, with the fact there's no way this movie is hitting its December 25th release, at least not for
Yeah.
theaters.
Well, especially now too, like, because I mean, obviously, this is nothing that they could foresee. Like,
Sure.
some places movie theaters never reopened to begin with, but then a lot of places they tried reopening and now they're shutting back down, and a lot of them are not shutting back down because they're COVID hotspots. They're just shutting down because all the movies are being pushed back. They don't
Yeah.
have anything to play, so it's just they're already losing money because they have to space everybody out and everything. But when you don't have anything to go see, they're not making any money. They're just hemorrhaging even more money. But
This
then
is this. I'm going to go off on just a quick tangent, real quick.
do it.
So I saw a news article yesterday or the day before, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been like USA Today. It was an article that talked about like the top 5 hotspots for COVID, and I was just I clicked on it because I just wanted to see movie theaters on that list, and I was shocked that movie theaters are not on that list.
Yeah,
Restaurants and bars, gyms. I can't remember the other ones that were on there. Were all hotspots for COVID. Yet movie theaters, which we've been told all along are not, or should be hotspots for, were not on that list. And I'm trying to determine if that's because people just aren't going to the movies, which is probably the case, or if movies
part of
are,
it, yeah.
or if the social distancing and some of the preventive measures that movie theaters have taken are maybe working a little better than people had anticipated.
I think it's a little bit of both because they haven't been able to in any state, to my knowledge. 'Cause I think there was it may have been in the same article or a different article, but they have never been able to, like, to this point in time. This was just like a week or so ago. I saw this. They haven't been able to trace any sort of COVID outbreaks to a movie theater, like
Hmm.
across the states. So,
Yeah,
like, there's been essentially no evidence that they are affecting the spread of COVID in any way. Much like
sure,
the reverse of that, which would, like, restaurants and all these places that aren't practicing the not that everybody does and doesn't, but like it's hit and miss. Some places will do it more than others, and some that probably should be. Like a gym probably shouldn't be open to begin with because everybody's touching everything. Like, I mean, you're
sure.
breathing heavy, touching everything, small room, maybe a big room, but either way, everybody's touching everything. You can't really social distance. So I mean, one could argue they probably should have never opened up. But,
Mhm.
like, with movie theaters, they've always had the capability, and then any of the ones that I heard about, I haven't gone to one since this all happened, but mainly just because there hasn't Tenet's been the only thing that's come out. Like, other than, like, I haven't really wanted to as cool as it would have been to go back and see Empire Strikes Back on the big screen,
Yeah,
I have it, and I don't really need to go put myself at risk in any capacity to do it, so I never did.
sure.
And, like, I considered going to see Tenet because I remember at one point in time specifically looking at the seating arrangements on it, and there was 2 people in one of the theaters, so I was like, "We could go, like, I'm sure this'll be fine," and then, like,
Yeah,
they're spacing everything out, and you can see, like, if you select these 2 seats, the 2 seats next to you will be blocked off, and, like, they were
yep,
doing like, movie theaters have been practicing safe social distancing, and due to the fact that there hasn't been a lot of people going into them to begin with, like, I coulda went and saw Tenet, like, it was, like, week 2 of its release with just 2 other people. Like, there were
yeah,
more people in that Empire Strikes Back theater than there were in the Tenet theater, which was, like, kinda
yeah,
shocking, but that's just how it was. But, yeah, it's kinda baffling that, a lot of places just haven't reopened theaters to begin with, but went ahead and opened gyms and all that kinda stuff. But, the only other thing with this Wonder Woman thing that just kinda brought even more indication that, there's definitely some movement going on with, them trying to figure out what they're doing with Wonder Woman. Because just shortly after that article came out, supposedly there's been some discussion at Warner Brothers to potentially do a very short, theatrical release of Wonder Woman, if possible, and then kick it, straight to HBO Max by January. And this kinda can talk touches into another story that I don't have brought up as, like, a main topic or anything, but, like, Cinemark had recently come out and said that they would be open to shortening the theatrical window for movies, especially during this time period right now, by, like, a movie by movie basis. So they would take, I don't know, just like that. Like, so normally, though, the theatrical window is about, like, 90 days. So, like, a
yeah,
movie can't go on streaming or come out on home video or anything like that until it's done, a 90-day stint in the theaters, and then the studios can do whatever they want with it. And, just recently, I don't know, it was a couple months ago, AMC made a deal with Universal that would essentially allow them to shorten that theatrical window. But the only caveat to that was the deal essentially meant nothing because all of NATO, the National Theater Organization or whatever, would have to sign off on it. So just because AMC says it's okay for them to do it, then, for instance, Universal would only be able to release that movie in AMC theaters if they wanted to keep it into like a shortened window, because they wouldn't be able
mhm,
to release it to like a Cinemark theater who isn't agreeing to those terms and an AMC theater, and they can't have their cake and eat it too. Like one, they all have to be on board with it. And now Cinemark has come out and said that they would be on board with it from a movie by movie basis. And I think realistically, it's not just a movie by movie basis at this point in time. It'd probably more or less just be like, what month are we in kind of basis. Because Wonder Woman like was going to be coming out along with Free Guy and then I think Death on the Nile sequel to
yes, yep,
uh Kenneth Branagh movie. I can't remember what it's called, the murder mystery one. Those were supposed to be coming out the same week of Wonder Woman, and those got pushed back already. And I could see any theater right now just that is open, they just need content. Like I said, like they need a reason for people to come in. So, because I think in a perfect world, Wonder Woman 84 would be one of those movies that Cinemark would not do a shortened window one. The big budget ones
mhm,
is not what they would want to do. Like doing like your animated features, your trolls and stuff like that. That's what you would do a shortened window on because the majority of those people, and especially with most movies anymore, especially the big blockbusters even, you get your big business like opening weekend and then you trickle down from there anyway. And
yep,
especially with the smaller budget ones like, animated movie here and there, you're not pulling in millions of dollars after a month. So like those ones, the theaters won't be missing out on too much by shortening the window on those. But like Wonder Woman and Endgame and these kind of things, like they make millions of dollars on these things every weekend for a couple months at a time. So they would never do that with these in a perfect world. But right now, it's just they don't really have a choice. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So like I
yeah,
don't know. It'd be interesting to see if they decided to do a short release on this just to get it out because it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of a it's not one I could see them definitely not something I'd see Warner Brothers really wanting to do, but I mean, the studios work on borrowed money, so like if they got bills to pay, then they need to get it out, try to make some money on it, especially after how much they just lost with Tenet. Like,
Sure.
so I mean, I don't know. What do you think this after this? You think it's actually gonna? You think we'll see this on HBO Max before February, or you think they're gonna hold off and wait until June 2022 or 2021 rather?
If I was betting on this, I would bet for the June release. I
Yeah,
would bet that they follow Marvel's Disney and Marvel's lead and just push everything back. Call 2020 a wash, move everything back basically a year and go from there. And here's my main reason for placing that bet is that um, I'm not sure when these talks about releasing Wonder Woman to streaming and maybe having a short theatrical window were taking
this is on
place.
the 12th. At least this article is
Okay.
on the 12th, but they could have been
Yeah,
talking about this for months. Who knows?
exactly. And so even if it was, as recent as a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we got some maybe game-changing news at the beginning of last week with Pfizer announcing that there's a potential vaccine
True.
that's coming. And so at this point, Warner Brothers and all the movie theaters have to kind of hedge their bets and go, well, that's a game changer. If this vaccine is able to control the virus and restore some normalcy to the marketplace, then we could see a summer release slate that goes off without a hitch, or at least without a hitch comparative to the hitches that they've experienced up until this point. And so, do we want to forego the possibility of 100, $200 million, you know, theater or well, I mean, I guess you're talking about more than that, but $100 million release, opening weekend, $150 million opening weekend for Wonder Woman 84, and then maybe a 300, 400, $500 million run in theaters to get back, a fraction of that with a small window now and a streaming release. And I just think at this point, you've waited this long. What's another 6 months? What's especially with this hopefully good news on the horizon here. What's it going to hurt? So that's where I'm putting my money is that we see this get moved back to June, that they follow Marvel's suit, and hopefully, come May and June, people will be back in theaters seeing these
Yeah.
movies.
Well, that's the thing too. Just to add to the possible vaccine coming out, as soon as that article was released, the stocks in theaters and everything, and a lot of the public venues like that went up.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. So it definitely would make sense that like some people are probably going to be hedging. My only worry, well, people probably are hedging their bets. So I guess I should finish that thought. But my only worry is that every studio has pushed back every movie that they had to 2021 already, or maybe even later. So there were like, it's just going to be a
And there
stacked
were
year.
already movies. Yeah, there were already movies that were supposed to be coming out.
Yeah,
So
like that's like
So you're going to have this flood of. Well, the only thing I'll say about that is, while yes, that will lead to an absolute deluge. I can't say that word.
tell you.
Deluge. There you go of movies coming out. Um, Production was halted on a lot of stuff for quite a while because of COVID too. So there's going to be a lull there's a gap there somewhere, not just in the release of the movies, but also in the production of movies. So there's going to be some shifting and some shuffling around that needs to happen. But and if it's safe to go back to the theater, I'm all for going and seeing a couple movies a weekend. Once they come back, I'm feeling like I've been missing it for a while. So
Yeah, yeah,
they'll
no
have my
doubt.
money. So
Dude, it's been so I can't even. I think Endgame may have. I feel like Endgame was the last movie I went to see at this point.
oof,
It's
that's
been a
rough.
minute. Like
Yeah.
I can't think of. I can't think of what else I went to see in the theater. Like it's been a long time.
That's 18 months at this point, I think.
Yeah, it's been. I may have seen some else before then, but like, I literally, in my mind, I can't think of anything else that I went to go see. So it's definitely been some time. I've definitely
Oh,
missed.
did you see Far From Home?
I did see Far From Home. Yeah, I
There you
did.
go.
So that was probably the last one.
Okay.
Either way, it's been a long time. It's been so
Sure.
long
Oh
I
yeah.
can't even remember the last time I went.
Nothing in 2020. You have not been to the movies in
Yeah,
2020.
not
So yeah,
once. So we shall
crazy.
see. The question is, guys, what do you think about all this? Do you think that kind of like I feel like there's no way Wonder Woman's coming out this year. I don't think we're gonna see an HBO Max just because I know like they lost so much money with Tenet. Like, that movie, it cost them like 200 plus $1 million, and it made under 400 million with its worldwide release. So like they were definitely looking for more money with that and hoping that it would bring a lot more people back to the theaters. But just the way everything's been, people didn't go out and rush out to see it. A lot of people didn't even have the opportunity to because, like I said, theaters weren't even open. So like the fact that they saw like because Warner Brothers firsthand put out Tenet, so they know firsthand what they can expect from releasing a movie like right now. And I just don't see them. I don't see them wanting to go through that again. Granted, I guess the only thing we didn't really discuss, which could be a caveat, is just real quick before we move on. Like we did mention the Disney Plus, it's like almost tripling HBO Max subscribers. So there could be a push for them to want to maybe drop something real big on HBO Max and try to bump
Yeah.
that count. But I don't know. You're
You
looking
also
at a lot of subscribers to try to break out. The Wonder Woman 1 made like $800 million.
sure.
I don't think they're going to get that much out of subscribers. So
Well, and you also have to. Disney had a jump on their Disney Plus has been around for just over a year now, whereas HBO's been around what 4 or 5 months.
well, that's just
Um,
HBO Max because this subscriber count includes HBO members. And they're still being doubled or tripled. 'Cause
Sure. Well, I guess that's what I meant is that, the HBO Max service trailed behind the Disney service. So Disney has had time. I think a better comparison would be where was Disney Plus at the same time. So let's say HBO Max has been out 5 months now. Where was Disney Plus at 5 months? Were they at,
Well,
so that's a better apples to apples comparison than where they both at right now. Obviously, HBO Max wants to catch or even surpass Disney, which I think is going to be hard without brand recognition.
I don't know.
Maybe
HBO's a big brand.
it
And then you
is,
got
but
Warner
again,
Brothers, but
but again, HBO is at least, and this is my perception. I don't have marketing stats to support this, but my perception of HBO is it's got great original content, great original television shows. You think back to The Wire, you think back to um,
Sopranos,
Sopranos, yeah,
Entourage, Game of Thrones.
Entourage, Game of Thrones. You think back to all the great series they have. They're all adult-oriented series, which is great. You get young people just out of college. You get people on their own. You get bachelors. But when you start talking about families and people with kids, if they're choosing one streaming service or another on any given month, they're going to go for Disney. I'm guessing most of the time. So I think when they start, if we if there's a streaming war brewing, or if we're in the midst of a streaming war,
We're
it's
in
going
the
to be hard.
midst of it for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to ever compare those equally.
I
So
will
you're right. I
say
think
HBO is the closest comparison to Disney Plus, though.
really,
Despite that, in my opinion, because they have a back catalog that is rivals the size, if not exceeds the size. And then they also have very kid friend. They have like Looney Tunes. They have all these, Fresh Prince of
and
Bel
they
Air, like
and they've
all these
yeah.
things. Like
Well, they've got the Sesame
Friends,
Street.
like
Yeah, they've got the entire Sesame Street catalog
yeah, they
at
got
their
a ton of
at
stuff.
their disposal. That's the one thing that I don't think they do very well is they don't market. Like I never see anything about HBO
True.
Max, and I don't. Not only do I not see anything, I don't see their kid stuff highlighted anywhere. I have kids, and yet I don't see or
Yeah.
hear anything about HBO Max and kids. I hear Disney Plus.
I think they rushed it
Um,
out, man. Because
so
they also have Crunchyroll, like, so they have,
yep,
like, there's so much more. I think the problem with HBO Max and why it didn't take off right is because it came out too soon. They had a bunch of their content still licensed out with people. Because they also have, like, all the DC stuff, so they like and
sure.
always use that as an example because they were marketing hard on, like, "Come here for DC content," and then, like, 1 month in they said like, "Oh, these movies are leaving," and it was like a bunch
Yeah.
of DC movies because they had them licensed to go other places already. So they only had like a 1 month window that they could even have them at launch. And like,
Yeah.
I think right now they're in a place where they probably can't even market their full like library because it's still
Catalog.
caught up and stuff. Because I think, like
Yeah.
I said, I think they, if anybody, could rival Disney Plus, um, at least as far as like one-to-one content. Because like Netflix just has a bunch of crazy, like what you never know what you're gonna find on Netflix. But
Yeah.
Disney, kind of to your point, you know what to expect. You know what you're getting. Like HBO, offhand, you're probably 100% correct in that. Like the first thing people probably think of are like those adult shows, and
Mhm.
that's pretty much it. And like they're not marketing really like their kid friendly content and all that stuff really. So I don't know. That's probably it. Like I would say. I don't know.
Well, and I think the other thing that we've discussed a little bit on the show is, um, Disney is they're an established company. They're nothing's changing at Disney. They have one goal and one motivation. That's it. HBO and Warner Brothers are still in the midst of this AT&T merger, this AT&T acquisition, and AT&T is still trying to figure out how to be an entertainment company. And I think that uncertainty and that the sand shifting beneath the feet of everybody in these different divisions of Warner Brothers is causing a lot of this real disjointed release and information that's coming out of these companies, and that's why you don't get a clear idea of what HBO Max is and who it's for and what they offer. Um, Maybe we'll get that at one point, but I think that's also really hindering their service and maybe holding back their subscription numbers because they don't have good messaging about what they are and who they're for and what they offer people. So,
Yeah,
and you can't magically fix that by releasing Wonder Woman 84. It
you
might give you a
definitely can't.
bump,
Yeah.
but it's not going to fix it.
Yeah, and it's definitely not gonna bring $800 million of subscribers to you.
Sure.
Even with it being twice the price of, 'cause that's another thing too, HBO Max is twice the price of Disney Plus. Now, granted, Disney
Yeah.
Plus is 100% gonna be increasing that price soon. Like, I know for a fact they're gonna be, because I think even despite that, that same article was showing like, "Oh, they made this much money when this many subscribers," they still reported a loss. Like,
Hmm.
overall, just between their like, how much debt they're in and everything versus, like, how much profit they've made. They're still technically working in a deficit right now despite their high subscriber counts because 'cause they're only charging $6 a month. Like
Yeah.
so we'll have to just see. I definitely I agree that I don't think Wonder Woman is gonna hit HBO Max, but you never know. In this day and age, Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro, man. So anything is possible. And that's where, I don't know, all bets are off to me anymore, so
Yeah.
question is, guys, what do you think about all this? I know we went on for that one a little bit longer than I thought with the HBO talk, but I don't know, it all makes sense in some way, and it's all connected, so it's definitely worth talking about. But let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below, everybody. So our next main topic here is going to shoot us from the DC universe over to the Marvel. I don't even know if are we still calling it the MCU when it's Disney Plus related at this point, or is it
I
going to
think
have like?
so. Yeah.
I
No.
guess it would still be MCU if it's all connected. But first, we got 3 Marvel related, and I guess 3 MCU related topics at this point. And the first one being that kind of like a positive and a negative about WandaVision. And I'll start with a negative, is that it turns out we're not getting this thing directly after Mandalorian. At least not in December like everyone assumed it was going to be. We're not actually going to be getting it until January 15th. So
I don't even think that was. I don't think that was assumed. I think they officially announced that it was coming
they did. They
by
said
the end of the
2020.
year.
Yeah, they said by
Yeah.
2020. They
So
did. They
this
didn't
is
say
this
a
is
date, but
this is a delay, a pushback. But everybody, yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
at this point, everybody had assumed it was December. I think
Yeah.
because we already made it this far without a release date. So yeah, it's disappointing that we've got it.
I mean, in a year that we've had no Marvel MCU related content,
I know.
this was the last shining hope that we had of getting anything MCU related in 2020, and it's not happening now. But the good news with it is, I don't know, it's interesting news at least, and it gives us some indication because I heard people talking about this before, where with WandaVision, and we kind of seen in the trailers that they're going for I don't know, like, we don't really know the full details on the series by any means, but even from the trailers, we saw that they were gonna be like, it was gonna be heavily influenced by sitcoms. It just
Mm.
all sorts of sitcoms, and we see that in the trailers and everything, and it turns out, like, they went as far as shooting the first episode even in front of a live studio audience, and, they shot it in black and white because I think that one's, like, set in, like, the '50s, if I'm remembering correctly, and they even had, like, everybody on set was wearing, like, '50s era clothing, and everyone in the audience was like it was like a big, LARP event for, like, the '50s sitcom, like, everybody was doing it, and, which was kinda cool. So I'm really c the thing is, though, with this article, it actually says that that's episode 1, which that's the news that, like, I didn't hear anybody talking about. Everyone was talking about, "Oh, they shot this episode in black and white in front of studio audience," but no one was talking about, like, it being episode 1 because I kept hearing so many people, like, speculating, like, if the whole series was gonna be like that and everything. Because, like I said, we don't know. We still don't know. We had the shot in the trailer of Vision going out in seemingly modern time and his, Vision superhero uniform, cape, and all, and it was almost like a Truman Show kinda thing where he flies out to the world and looks around and goes to the woman in the car and whatever. So, like, we knew it was gonna be jumping around, but, now that we have confirmation that episode 1's like that, it almost, I have more questions as to what the rest of the show is gonna be like, but what did you think about this stuff?
I think this is super cool. I could not like I didn't think I mean just wanting more, just needing and wanting the MCU back in my life. I was already excited for this show, but hearing stuff like this is so cool to me. I used to watch. I used to see when I was little Nick at Night, the Leave It to Beaver. I remember my dad watched The Honeymooners. So I've had some of that old 50s black and white sitcoms sprinkled throughout my television viewing life, and so I think it's really cool how they're going to do this. How, at least in my mind, what I imagine they're going to do, which is play this series out over classic sitcoms of the various decades. I'll also say I think that this is a genius marketing move by Disney and Disney Plus. Because this is going to be the first episode, this is going to really set the tone for the series. But it's also going to be everybody's first experience with a Marvel television show, and it's a risky move. I could see them, they roll this show out and people turn on their TV and they get this black and white thing that they is set in this old timey, is filmed in this weird kind of way with this live studio audience, which you really don't see much of anymore, and I could see maybe some people being turned off by that. And I think getting out ahead of that and preparing people, saying, "Hey, look, this is what's going to happen." Um, I think that's a brilliant marketing move, so people don't go into it and have these expectations that are either completely off base, or at least are wrong to begin with. They don't
Yeah.
go into it expecting one thing and get this really strange, out there, different thing. So I
Mhm.
think it's a really smart move on their part, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I totally agree, and, another thing too that, this article, points out because like I said, I was reading and seeing a bunch of people talking about, like, information coming out about this or this series, and they were saying it was, like, confirmed that it was gonna be a 6-hour it was 6 hours long, but, like, this
Yeah,
this article actually is confirming that it's a 6-episode thing. Because I saw people were wondering, is it gonna be 30 minutes, episodes like Mandalorian, because like, that,
sure.
ended up turning a lot of people off, so, like, they were kinda shook, we'll say, when first episode of Mandalorian dropped, and it was only like 30, 40 minutes long. You know what I mean? And I'll say too, this last episode of Mandalorian, which we'll talk about on a later date, um, it was only like 30 minutes long, but it felt a lot longer.
It
Like
did.
it almost felt like
Lots of story.
yeah, not in like a bad way, not like it drug on. Like
No.
it was like my favorite episode of the season, but like they crammed a lot of information into it, and just the way it
Mhm.
played out, it felt like a nice hour long episode. Even though
Yeah,
it was, I think, the shortest one this season.
it was.
So
Yep.
crazy, but, yeah, so we know this is gonna be 6 episodes long, and I totally agree, I'm looking forward to it. I can totally see how, I agree with, like, your point on the marketing, 'cause, you'd think like a lot of because the MCU has appealed to like everybody, like not just comic book fans, not just movie fans. Like it's arguably the most successful franchise movie wise, at least right now, but arguably of all time in a lot of ways. So, and everyone has come very they know what to expect. All the Marvel movies have a certain tone to them. They all connect in some way, and this one has the potential of being, based on what we've seen, very different, especially getting this information. So, I agree. It was definitely a good idea for them to kind of get ahead of some things and let people know because you never know how people would react. I mean, people went crazy, like I said, about Mandalorian being short episode wise. So, like, I mean, you can only imagine what they would do if you turn it on and like you see a 50 sitcom with
They
political
start
bullshit.
tweet they start tweeting, Disney's WandaVision is messed up, and I can't get color.
Yeah, right, yeah. How many people are gonna like that's the thing too, you gotta think of how many like younger people who don't even know what black and white TVs are. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's so many people out there who like literally don't even know that was a thing. Like
yeah.
and they probably watch the Avengers movies and they're gonna turn this on like, what's my TV's broken.
What the
Mom,
yeah.
dad, what's going on here? But definitely a good idea to get out in front of that. And then we got some more news in the MCU related world here, and we'll jump right into it here. This took me by surprise. I don't know if this really took me by surprise, but I was glad to hear it. And that's Chris Pratt is going to be joining the cast of Thor: Love and Thunder, which makes sense in a lot of ways, I guess. But also, you never really knew. At the end of Endgame, you never really knew what if they were gonna just throw that away. You know what I mean? Just like the whole setup of as Guardians of the Galaxy, it could have been wrapped up and just it could have been kind of like Iron Man 3 and Tony throwing away Tony retiring from Iron Man, but then you see him again in Avengers, like the next movie. Like, they just
Yeah,
throw that whole thing away. And
yeah,
I always hoped that like the intro at the very least to the next Thor movie to follow up how Endgame left off with the character was like Star Lord and Thor like with like a Rocky style workout montage of them trying to get back into shape or something. And if that's all it was, then I'd be fine with that. So like I'm glad to hear that Chris Pratt's Peter Quill, aka Star Lord character, is appearing in Thor: Love and Thunder. So what did you? Obviously, we don't know what he's doing, and obviously, too, I'm super hyped for this movie actually though because Thor Ragnarok was like I love Thor Ragnarok, I love Taika Waititi, and we got Christian Bale making his return to the comic book world. Presumably, I think yeah, like in the article says we think he's playing the villain, but we don't know what he's gonna do. So I'm super excited
what
to see what
villain?
happens. Like, so what do you think about all this?
I mean, I love Chris Pratt. I loved Parks and Rec, and then of course I loved him even more with Guardians. So I'm super stoked to have him back in the MCU and have him reprising his role. I mean, I think that first meeting between them and in Infinity War when the rest of the Guardians started asking him, "Are you lowering your voice
Yeah,
on purpose?" And
yeah,
I think anybody that watched him and Chris Hemsworth interplay there in Infinity War, I think all the Marvel execs probably right away were like, "Okay, we have to have him in the next movie." So I think this is just kind of more inevitable than it is actually news breaking, and I'm still holding out hope that we get at least a cameo by Rocket, Groot, Gamora, Drax in some fashion. I was really hoping that maybe the next Guardians movie would follow Thor joining them, but it looks like because of timing and maybe the way that things are rolling out, that might not be the case. So maybe it'll be a buddy comedy between the two of them. But I'm looking whatever they do, I'm sure it will be good. I'm looking forward to it.
right, well, that's another reason why I thought the whole, like, setup at the end of Endgame could be, like, a throwaway thing was because James Gunn had already written the Guardians 3 script way
You're right.
before this is done, and then, like, he got fired and then brought back, but, like,
You're
he still
hired, yeah.
already has that script, and then they're shooting Thor first, so it's, like, the only time they really had to include as Guardians of the Galaxy would have been in Love and Thunder at this point, because otherwise you're asking
Yeah.
James Gunn to, like, completely, like rewrite and just add Thor in for, like, something that he had nothing to do with, really. Like, at least
Sure.
we don't know how much he had to do with, so, because I know on Infinity War, they said James Gunn did write the scenes with Guardians in them, but that
Yep.
doesn't mean that there weren't other scenes that the writers wrote on their own or what they did to, change it. You never know with these kind of things. So
Yep.
definitely, in the end, I just want that montage thing of them getting in shape. Like I think that'd be the best thing for it to do, and then they could part ways after that, and then that's it. Totally fine with it. So they're packing a lot into this movie, so I really don't know. Kind of like with Jared Leto's Joker showing up in Justice League. I don't really know where Star Lord fits into Love and Thunder. With you got like Natalie Portman rather, returning to the franchise itself, but she's playing, you know, Jane Foster Thor. You got all, there's just a ton of stuff going on here. Christian Bale doing something, like, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm hyped for it either way. Then our last
Yep.
MCU topic though is something that, like, I don't know, I felt like kind of like a no-brainer to me in a lot of ways, but you never know in today's age. But a producer on Black Panther has come out and said that they are not going to be doing a digital recreation of Chadwick Boseman. May he rest in peace. Uh, for any sort of future Black Panther series or appearances or anything like that. They're not going to be digitally recreating Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. The only kind of thing that, like, kind of caught me off guard in a lot of ways with this article was the fact that they go on to say that this producer goes on to say that they don't even know what they're wanting to do and where they're going with the Black Panther franchise. Which
Sure.
which I mean, I can see where they probably just said that off the cuff, and I'm sure, like, in the grand scheme of things, they probably do know where they're going, but because I feel like too, like, this article includes like a comment from the actress who plays Shuri, where it just kind of goes on to say that, like, we're still mourning Chadwick, and we're not really like it is. I feel like a lot of this is like we're not really trying to talk about this stuff right now.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of this is being polite, just to, like, to the people, just like, this is the last
Sure.
thing we want to talk about. We just lost Chadwick. We're not trying to talk about this. So that's what it feels like to me anyway. Because I really
I mean,
highly doubt they don't know what they're doing. But
we're 2 months. We're a
yeah,
little over 2 months removed from the guy passing, and by all accounts, and nobody else knew. I mean,
yeah,
this is something that is very still raw. I'm sure for a lot of the people that knew him and were involved with that. It's raw for the fans even. Um, but I will say, just like you said, I mean, this is a no brainer. Of course, you can't bring him back digitally. You can't recreate him digitally. I mean, like, to be, not to get off topic or anything, but I hate that it has to be under these circumstances. But I think it's setting a good precedent because, you know, I don't want to see movies delve into the arena of digitally created actors,
yeah.
either out of necessity or just out of ability. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see real people portray these characters. I don't want to see somebody, you know, direct or writing code to have them have these portrayals take place. So,
Yeah, I think
um,
there's definitely a time and a place for it. Like with Tarkin, I can see, like, in Rogue One,
okay,
I can
yeah,
see, like, why, like, they didn't need to do it. Like, they could have
hmm,
just not had Tarkin. But I could see
hmm,
why they wanted to, and, like, where
sure,
it made sense for the story, and it wasn't the Tarkin movie. You know what I mean? Like, I could never see, like, 'cause there were rumors, not really rumors, like, there were announcements saying that, like, I forget, like, what the movie was gonna be called or what
and
the movie
and
is, but they were recreating James Dean. James Dean was gonna star in this movie. That's absurd. That's
sure,
not James Dean, like, and you
no,
don't need it to be James Dean, and, like, the producer of this movie literally said, like, I'm quoting him, that James Dean is the perfect actor to play this character, and that's why they're doing it. And it's like,
and it's
no,
and
he's
then,
not.
like you said, in that case, that's not James Dean. That's your interpretation of what James Dean
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whoever's doing
it's
the
insane.
programming. It's So, and Tarkin, like you said, Tarkin had it's a different type of feel. Tarkin being in Rogue One was almost an homage to
Yeah.
the actor that portrayed that role. He wasn't the main. If you do it with Chadwick Boseman, if you do it with James Dean, you're making money off of that character, off of that actor's portrayal, without them in any way, shape, or form being involved. And then it becomes a whole nother thing. It's not just an homage at that point. You're not honoring their legacy. You're not honoring what they did before. You're blatantly trying to market a movie that they had no control over.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it might be a fine line, but there's definitely a line there between those two.
There's definitely I would
Mhm.
never wanna see, because that's the thing too, if you're gonna there's a difference between using the likeness of somebody, like that Avengers game, for instance. If they wanted to use the likeness of all the actors as the character models for the game, fine. Like,
Yeah,
that's perfectly fine. It's like if you wanna make an animated CGI movie and use their likeness and have them come in and do the voices even, like, fine. Even if they can't do the voices, because let's say they did make an animated one and since Chadwick's passed away, if like the estate signed off on like a cartoon movie using his likeness and someone does the voice, fine. But I definitely don't want to watch a movie where you're completely digitally recreating like the character and having some other person, like Sean Gunn who does like all the Rocket Raccoon CGI green suit. Well, I don't want to know that that's what's going on. You have some random
yeah,
person like sitting there because it's not Chadwick, and Chadwick wouldn't want that either. I'm not gonna speak for I don't know the man or never knew the man, but, like, with a lot of these characters, a lot of people who play them, I feel like they would wanna see the character live on, like, have someone else come and take the mantle and do it, and not, like, have another character other than T'Challa be Black Panther, like, have someone
sure.
else come in and take the reins, and 'cause T'Challa is an important character, and I'm
Yeah,
sure anybody attached to you know, the creation of, Black Panther and everything, they want the character itself to live on. Like,
yeah,
the actors are there to serve, like, the character and the story, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't like anything that comes in, like, to interfering with that to, like, suit, like, picking an actor, like, you should never build your movie around an actor. You should build the movie around the story and get the actors are just there to serve the character, which serves the story, you know?
yeah,
And, like, Black Panther can live on and be just as successful with or without him, like, in digitally recreating him, not the way to go. It's
no,
kinda it's because then you run into the whole issue too with, like, the estate has to get involved. 'Cause this is like what come up with like the James Dean thing. It's like the estate signed off on it, it's fine. It's like, well, yeah, the estate would sign off on it because they're gonna make money off it. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like, and it's like you said, you have these people who are like completely disassociated with like James Dean's dead. Like he has no say on this. Like it's ridiculous. Like it's
yeah,
absolutely ridiculous. Not that like I said, I don't know Chadwick Boseman, never knew him, but like not that he wouldn't be okay with it, but like I just can't imagine anyone wanting that like anybody to use their appearance in that kind of way. Like with the Tarkin thing, we're like paying homage, doing a quick thing, sure. There's like that's fine, but making an entire movie with just you get in such a murky area of just like I don't think anybody's asking for it. Just I don't know.
yeah,
Not a good place. Not a good place to be. But, that covers all the MCU talk. That ends it, which, like, there's some good stuff in there. Some things that were just kind of, like, expected, and some other things, like I said, super happy to see Chris Pratt coming into, Thor: Love and Thunder, so I hope they can wanna see some Asgardians of the Galaxy. I at least wanna see the Asgardians of the Galaxy wrapped up in some way, even if it was supposed to just be like a throwaway joke teaser thing at the end. Like I want them to wrap it up because it was a very good setup. That kind of like John said, their chemistry between the two Chris's was set up real nice. So I could totally see why people would be disappointed if it wasn't ramped up in some way. So, but let us know what you guys think about those topics down in the comment section below. All right, guys. So our final topics here, we have three quick news topics that we wanted to get some words in on because they weren't super major main topic related things because there's just not a whole lot of information about them yet. For super huge packed things, but they are very interesting nonetheless. And we wanted to give our quick thoughts on them. And the first one being that we spoke a little bit earlier about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation and Johnny Depp being asked to remove and or quote unquote stepping away from the Grindelwald role in the Fantastic Beasts, but it has come out that Mads Mikkelsen, Hannibal Lecter himself, is going to be replacing him as Grindelwald in the upcoming, at least Fantastic Beasts 3. I don't know because like I said this before, this was supposed to be like a 5 movie deal, and like I don't know if they've decided to just make it a trilogy. I don't know what who knows, who knows what they're doing, but I'm actually pretty happy with it. I love Mads Mikkelsen. He's great.
Great actor.
He's great in everything. Like if you haven't seen Hannibal,
Oh god.
dude, go watch Hannibal. It's so good. I think most people, when this news came out, and me kind of included, were just like, "This is great and all, but where's the Hannibal season 4 announcement? No, like, where's that at?" Because ever since Hannibal got picked up on Netflix, like everyone's just been assuming like, just mean they're gonna like they're gonna do it because it
Bring
when they
it
got
back.
it there, it was like number one and they're trending for like a long time, and
Yeah.
I don't know. So, and if anything, with this. So you said you haven't seen like these movies, right? You haven't seen the regular
No.
Harry Potter ones, dude. Like literally, like, and I don't mean this like any shade at like Johnny Depp at all, because I thought with Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald, like Johnny Depp was probably the best part of that movie. Like in all honesty, like despite any behind the scenes stuff that happened that has nothing to do with the movie and the performance and everything, I think what he did in that movie, and what he brought to it, was probably the best part of the movie. And
Mhm.
having said that, I think Mads Mikkelsen is a much better casting as Grindelwald. Like from the start, like I would have been fine if, like, I would have almost preferred. Granted, I haven't seen Mads in the role. I don't know what, but I know what Mads can do as an actor, and just like I could just see like him playing Grindelwald. That just sounds. If you would have asked me, you want Johnny Depp to play Grindelwald, or you want to Mads Mikkelsen, I would have chose Mads Mikkelsen from the start. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Again, I thought Johnny Depp was the best part of that movie, so I'm not saying anything. It has nothing to do with anything behind the scenes, whatnot, whatever. I love Matt Mikkelsen, and I think he'll bring great justice to the role. If literally not, has the potential of being even better now that he's there. Like that just is more high praise to Mads more so than any sort of detractor onto Johnny by any means.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that. I know since you haven't really seen it, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I'm right there with you that,
Does it make you
man.
wanna see it more? Make you actually wanna see it more?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, based upon your pretty good recommendation about these movies, I mean, I feel like maybe I could even skip the Harry Potter movies and not don't have to go back and see those, and maybe just pick up Fantastic Beasts, but yeah, I mean, I definitely knowing he's gonna if he does take over the role, that makes me wanna see it a little more.
I will say the Harry Potter movies are better than the Fantastic Beasts movies, so
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't actually recommend skipping them to go to that one,
Okay.
but, like, I don't mind the Fantastic Beasts movies are fine, they're good. The second one, was the most unlike Harry Potter than any of them have been, and not I don't know if it's really a negative or a positive, it's just, I don't know. They're definitely not as good as the original. Like, we're not the original, but it's more of like a spin-off thing, a spin-off prequel thing.
Sure.
I liken it kind of as I like you not having seen the Harry Potter movies might, I don't know, appreciate or like the Fantastic Beast movies. And I say that just because it's hard sometimes when I like have tried to get people who have never watched Star Wars to watch Star Wars. I tend to, and this might sound sacrilegious, but like prior to the sequel trilogy, depending on the person, I'd say start with the prequels because I know a lot of people have a harder time watching older movies because it takes
Yeah.
them out of it. So like they
Yeah.
might be able to watch like something that's a little bit newer and updated and actually like get into it more so than setting them up for failure by they don't really like watching older movies, and it already kinda
Sure.
takes them out, and they can be less it's all honestly person to person. So, like, I don't know, because I feel like if you've never watched Star Wars, you're probably not someone who likes watching older movies. So it might be better for you to start with the prequels and just watch it, episode 1 and up in chronological order, quote, unquote, Not that you would need to with this, but the same rule applies. Like if you haven't seen the Harry Potter movies, I don't think it would really hurt to watch these ones first because you're not missing anything. It's a disconnected story, all things considered, for the most part.
Yeah.
So, you know, but again, I'm excited to see Mads come in and play that. I think that'll be great. So, whatever you guys think about that, let us know down in the comment section below. Our next one here, which is this next topic, I'm more or less just excited to hear that there's like movement. This thing has been in production in some way for like 10, 15 years, and that's the Halo TV series. And we just got a casting confirmation that the original voice actress for Cortana is going to be reprising the role of Cortana in the Halo TV series that is going to be coming to Showtime. And I'll tell you what, depending on how this looks, it might be reason enough for me to pick up a Showtime sub because I don't have
Yep.
a Showtime sub. But this is having been just among the many who wasted a lot of time playing Halo 1, 2, and 3. And like they've been trying to make a Halo has been poised for cinematic just money making glory like for the longest time. It feels like such like a easy thing for them to do, and it's especially as like CGI and everything has progressed like further and further, and it's just like I guess now is probably the best time to do it because if they want to do like the elites or the brutes or the flood, like the CG needed to be pretty good for it. So I mean,
Sure.
maybe it's gonna work out for them. Just holding off a bit, but on top of Cortana coming back, I mean they have their Master Chief cast. They have a full cast assembled now essentially, and there's still like little to no information about what the show's going to be about. But I mean we know there's going to be 3 additional Spartan characters with Master Chief, original Cortana. At this point, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for something. It's produced by Amblin Entertainment, so I take that with a huge grain of salt, though, and for people not to get too hype about Steven Spielberg's attachment, because it's going to be a producer in name, much like he was a producer in name on Michael Bay's Transformers movies, which are dog shit. So don't think that this is going to be good just because Steven Spielberg's on it. Is the only thing I would have to say. What
Yeah.
do you think about this?
I'm right there with you. Like, I'm happy to hear that there's some movement on it, that we might actually get to see this one day here in the relatively near future. I'm a little curious if they're going to let this actress, if they're going to, because Cortana is a digital and AI, and I'm really curious if, but she's represented by a humanoid figure in the game for those that haven't played the game. And so I'm curious if the actress is going to, if they're going to actually let her do the physical performance of the character, or if it's going to be completely computer generated. Obviously, they if she does the performance, they would um, digitize her and make her into a more holographic looking character because that's what Cortana is. Or I'm wondering if they're going to try and mimic Cortana's look in the from the games, which is completely different than the voice actresses look. As you can see by the two pictures side by side,
Right.
they have much different looks. So I'm curious if it's going to be a voice act only, or if she's actually going to have a physical performance that goes along with it. But either way, I mean that's a small little thing, but like you said, I'm excited to hear some movement there, and I don't have a Showtime either, but I would definitely pick Showtime up for this. I don't know that I'd hang on to it much longer after it was over,
Yeah,
but
I
I would
would.
definitely pick it up for this.
I can tell you what though. I'll give you what I think. If I was like producing this, if I was attached in any way, what I would say they probably what I would do is I would keep Cortana with the same video game model and just have her do the voice
Sure.
for multiple reasons. One, people are used to it, so it's always nice to have that like one little piece of connective tissue. You know what I mean? It's
Yep.
what R2D2 and C3PO show up in every goddamn movie. You know what I mean? There's
Mhm.
one piece of connective tissue in there that just runs right through. So like having Cortana be represented in the same physical appearance, I think would lend itself better. Not that
Sure.
there's anything against seeing her by any means, it's just for the story purposes, because I'm sure
Mhm.
Master Chief's gonna look exactly the same as he does in the game. I'm sure all the Spartans are gonna look exactly the same. Why would you change that? That stuff works, you know what I mean? And, mainly though, like, physical appearances aside, and this is not a detractor towards, Jen Taylor here, because I don't know what if she's could be the best actress in the world, but voice acting is completely different than stage acting. And you know what I
Yep.
mean? So it's like a lot of times, like there's a reason those like both sides don't make the transition, and like a good actor is not a very good voice actor, and vice versa. Like voice acting is its own skill, and like she does the voice great. So just like I'm glad that she's like just there to do the voice. That's enough for me. And I would just say like why change anything? Like, it doesn't need to
Yeah.
be changed, you know? Like, I don't know, like, not that it's jarring, not that she's an unattractive woman who, like, it'd be fine, like, I wouldn't care either way. I just think, like, it'd be better just for to keep Cortana looking how she's most familiar, and then the voice is all you need. It's like if they made a Portal movie, you just need that voice to be there, that's it. Like, you wouldn't need to change the look of
Yep.
a robot, you know, it's like, just you just need the voice, and, like, rest works on its own, so I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it anyway. But, let's move into our final topic here, which has to do with sound. Not so much voice, but I guess, like, in some cases, the voice because a lot of, there were a lot of complaints with, Tenet, alright? And, like, I didn't
Mhm.
see this in theaters, and I think you said you did, so I can't remember if you said you had this issue or not, but I remember just reading multiple articles about, Tenet and people going to see Tenet and them not being able to hear what the hell was going on in Tenet. And I heard both sides. I heard people say that they didn't have any problems. I heard a lot of people say they had problems. And,
Yeah, it wasn't the Rona that hurt the tenant box office, it was people not being able to hear it that
yeah,
hurt.
it was the sound mixing apparently. But, did you
Com
have any of the sound issues when you went to see it?
so, yeah, obviously, I'm completely joking that I don't think the sound impacted the box office at all, but
Right.
I did have some issues picking up, um, dialogue, especially in the first, I would say, quarter of the movie. There's a big action set piece that takes place at the very opening of the movie with, one of the hallmarks of a Chris Nolan movie, like heavy bass drums at points to really, yeah, to really drive home the intensity of certain scenes, and they do a great job. I don't know if great's not the right word, but they do a great job of timing those to occur sometimes right when people are saying things.
Yeah.
It completely drowns it out. But I don't remember it being an issue for like the last three quarters of the movie, but I do remember that opening set piece thinking, what did that guy say? Oh wait, huh? Oh, okay, there's something I missed there, but oh well, I'll just go on. And it didn't impact my enjoyment of the movie. It didn't impact my understanding of the movie in any way. So yeah, it was. It's definitely an issue. It's definitely something that you don't. I don't know very many other directors or movies where I go to and I say, well, wait a minute, what did that person say? Usually, it's
Right.
there's not that issue. So when it does rear its head, it obviously stands out.
Well, that's the thing too with this article. Like, it wasn't just some random moviegoers who had it. Like, he apparently got like calls. Chris Nolan got called by like fellow filmmakers, like his peers, and said like, "Yo, Chris, I just saw a movie, but like I couldn't hear anything. Like, what's going on with your sound mix? Like so, like, it wasn't just like it was like experienced people who went and saw it probably on top of the line theaters, maybe even had a copy of it to watch in their home. Like, so, like you never know. Like,
Yeah,
if Quentin Tarantino, if he asked for a copy of Tenet, he probably would have gotten one. You know what I mean? Like, so, like,
sure.
who knows what kind of if this was just like a theater issue? Because, like I said, some people went out and said like they saw it on like the best like Dolby Atmos like theater they could, and they didn't have the issues. So it's like maybe it was fine and mixed a certain way to function better on for certain equipment. Who knows? I still haven't seen it, so I'm curious to see what it's going to be like because I'm only going to be able to watch it on like home video. So
Sure.
I'll have to see. And like, but he goes on to say that he doesn't think it's a problem. Like he's like it's like it just comes down to essentially how they decided to mix the movie. Like, and that's just like it is what it is. And like, what do you think with like, do you think it's like kind of like a I don't know, like a negative way to look at it in a way? Do you think like he should be like not that he should be pandering like to like change because like a lot of people will be like they cringe at the thought of studio interference and don't interfere with
Sure.
the art, like the artists, and let them do their thing. And like Chris Nolan likes, like, even with these like movies that deal with a lot of like science fiction related things, they're always grounded, very grounded, hyper real movies. Tries to bring the element, and I can see like I think one example I heard was like, and it might be in the scene that you're talking about, that they're like, if it's like a big action scene, like maybe he's not wanting you to be able to hear it, like the dialogue. Like maybe that's what he's going for, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I don't know.
The
When you
immer the immersion quality of it
yeah,
that really immerse you in that. Like if you were there, that you wouldn't be able to hear the dialogue. So this is give
exactly.
you, yeah,
So I don't know if like that is primary because he doesn't say that's what like it was, but he kind of like his description of it was kind of that. Like this just it comes down to like how they decided to do the sound mixing, and that's just is what it is. So like maybe if that's what he's going for, which we know just from watching the movie, that that's the best way I could explain it. Is that like maybe
uh,
he doesn't want you to hear, which is
yeah.
kind of like dumb in a lot of ways so too. So I don't know.
Obviously, this headline is a little clickbaity with its whole. It's not clickbaity. I mean, that's but I don't think that's a direct quote that he doesn't think it's a big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, it's
And you
not.
can't. It's maybe a little embellished to get you to click on it and read the
Mhm.
article. But he also, I mean, it is very clear he doesn't think it's as big a deal as maybe the general public has made it out to be, or it's become in movie circles. I will say this though, as someone who worked in print medium for a little while and was involved with proofreading, there's a rule that I think maybe Chris Nolan, and who am I to tell Chris Nolan what should be going on? But
I know,
um,
right?
so by no means take this as me thinking that I know better than Chris Nolan, but there's a rule that you don't proofread your own work, and that's because you know what's supposed to be on the page. So if
That
you're reading it, your brain automatically fills in or adjusts those errors and things because you know what's supposed to be there. And part of me just wonders if Nolan, when he goes back and watches these things, or when he goes back and sees the rough cuts or whatever, and his sound people, when they go back and see it, they know what the story is, they know what the script is, they know what the dialogue is. So if
mhm.
even if they don't quite hear it when they're watching the proofs or they're watching the drafts, um, they know their brain fills that in for them, and so it isn't as big of an issue for them. And I hope that he has somebody that he trusts that maybe isn't involved in the production of it, that he shows these things to, and maybe they can be a little more, they can provide that outsider perspective to him and tell him, look, you wrote the script, you wrote this dialogue intentionally. These lines were written down on the page intentionally because they convey some part of the story, and you're losing them. You're completely drowning them out with this sound mix. And so, maybe look at the value of these of what you've written compared to the value of the impact of having the sound be that loud or drown out the dialogue that much. So
Right.
that's my only take on the whole thing. Again, who am I to try and like tell Chris Nolan do something different? And that's not all what I'm doing. I'm just saying like maybe that's something that hasn't been considered, or a perspective that could offer some a different could offer a different perspective on this situation.
No, I totally agree. Like I couldn't have said better myself. Like that's my mindset with it is like they all know what's being said. They all know like Nolan has, like you said, a specific sound in all his movies. Like they know what they're
Hmm.
going for with that. They know the script. When they're going through all this stuff in post, like it's all fine to them, I'm sure. Like it doesn't,
Hmm.
they know what's going on. And like you don't know until you're the completely impartial person who's never seen it. That's like that's who would know. Not that there's
Yeah,
anything wrong with like, the movie or anything, but it's just like, if a simple thing like turn the volume down, that's not really in studio interference or anything like interfering with the artist's like true thing or whatever. But like I said, if he's going for that, fine. But it is kind of like you said, if you're writing, script and dialogue and you want people to be able to hear it. You don't want people
yeah,
to be watching the movie and then second guessing what is even happening in the movie. It's like it pulls you out of the movie for a minute when you're like, I can't wait. What did they just say? Like, and
sure.
then you got to like try to figure it out. It's just it is. I could see both sides of it being like I don't really think there's a right or wrong, but I feel like there's a very happy medium of just turn the volume down a little bit in some spots or turn the dialogue up, turn that up. Like, just fix that part and you'll be good.
Just a bit, just a
Yeah.
little bit, not much. We're asking you to lose
Yeah.
the heavy base at all. We're just
Yeah.
saying, give us a fighting chance.
Yeah, yeah, that's all. Like, I haven't seen it yet, like I said, so I don't know. Maybe I'll watch it at home and be like, "Ah, it was fine." Like, who kno but
Yeah.
granted, I always have subtitles on, so I never have that problem, but you don't have that luxury in the theaters. So to
Yeah.
just be like, "Hey, guys, can you turn the subtitle?" You don't have that. 'Cause I just like to have it specifically for those reasons, and, like, Christopher Nolan is actually one of the main reasons I started turning subtitles on by default, like, no joke, because
Mhm.
ever since Batman Begins, he's had that problem. Like, there
Yeah.
has been issues where the sound is just so overwhelming that, like, you just lose stuff, and it's not just Chris. There's plenty of other things where I'm, like, watching something, I wanna make sure I can know what people are saying. Like, so
Sure.
I just turn the subtitles on, so but that was it. That's pretty much all I had on. You got anything else you wanna add to that at all? I think you
No.
expelled it brilliantly, though. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Thanks, yeah. I
Um,
do I do what I can.
yeah, like, everybody gets a win. Everybody gets a win. But then, that covers it, guys. Just let us know what you guys think about all this stuff here. Did you have any issues with the Tenet sound quality? Like, or are you like me that you'll just have to wait and kinda see once I mean, I think it's coming out the end of the year or something, maybe I can't remember. I think it's coming
Mid
out
middle
soon.
middle of December, yeah, middle of
Yeah.
December, I think.
Yeah, I think yeah, wasn't it the 15th? I think it was the
Yeah.
15th, something like that. Either way. So I guess I'll let you guys know if I have any issues. So, but anyways, guys, that'll do it for us today. Don't forget, like and subscribe. This has been a long show. I apologize for anybody who has to stare at our mugs. This probably I don't know how long it's been, but because I was cutting a couple times, so like we'll see. I think we may have hit the 3 hour mark with it. I thought we could have came in under 3 hours, but we never know. I don't know yet. But John, where can everybody find you online?
I'm over at the Twitters at Nightwing_J, and it might have been a little political heavy this past week, but I promise we'll get back to dumb comic book commentary and movie commentary very shortly here. So
Well, you know what, dude? And I always say, I don't. I guess I don't really always say it because, like, I don't really spend. I spend at this point in time next to zero time on social media, which I probably should more because I should probably like actually promote the damn show. More so than anything. That's is literally the only reason I would even get on there is to promote the damn show. But I would say, and it's probably the best way for people to go about it, depending on what kind of show. Like, if you run a political show, then I guess it's perfectly fine for you to talk politically. But if that's your personal social media, do whatever the hell you want. You know what I mean? Like like the show though, like what we do here, I try to keep politics out of it. You know what I mean?
yep,
Because like
yep,
this is a safe space. Like, I don't care if you're left, right, bottom, top. Like, we're talking about movies and like video games. Like,
sure,
you could be from any length of the world, part of the world, and like be able to talk about Batman. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
is what it is. That's why it's like all that stuff. There's a time and a place for it. So if you want to go
and
crazy
and I
politically, do it. Just
and I try
where it
I
counts.
try not to, if for the most part, I keep politics out of. There I've always adhered to the you don't talk about politics and religion at dinner, and you don't,
Yeah,
you try and keep that stuff as because in the end, it's not worth your time and effort and the stress that it seems to cause. Um, but I also find some commentary and some stuff that people have said over the past few weeks a little bit funny, and maybe I've gotten a little wrapped up in it myself, and I'm trying to. I'm slowly feeling myself get out of the grip of the,
yeah,
the entire the enthrallment that everybody's had with the whole political process this year.
yeah,
I'm feeling that grip relax itself, and so I'm hoping I get back to a more what I would consider normal. And I don't, if you come on there and you don't like what I've said, hey, no skin off my back. You're completely entitled. Your opinions are just as relevant, and probably some. I'm sure a lot of you have a more informed opinion on things than I do to a certain degree, and so I don't, by any stretch of imagination, mean to offend anybody. And I actually, if you're rational and reasonable, I love debating stuff like that. I love debating viewpoints and why people feel certain ways about certain things. that don't, especially when they don't devolve into personal attacks. So,
Right.
if you feel like maybe I've got a wrong perspective on something, I'd love to hear that about you too. Now, we probably have more fun just BSing about why Chris Nolan can't, get dialogue to sound right
Right.
in his movies, but
Right.
take it for what it is.
No, exactly, and that's why, I mean, that's why I named the channel "Honest and Uneducated," dude. It's because I'm literally just here to give my honest opinion, and I might be uneducated on it's just my personal opinion. Like,
Yep,
it's my honest and uneducated opinion on whatever the hell I'm talking about. It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. Like, 'cause I mean,
yep,
that's the beauty of talking about, like, a lot of stuff that there is no right or wrong answer. Like, it's all subjective. At least stuff we talk about here. A lot of times outside of there's plenty of things that, are based in fact, we'll say. And like some things aren't based in fact. But when we're in this world, it's all subjective because it's all art in some ways. You know what I mean? So and art is subjective. There's no
sure.
objectively good in art. So that's why, hence the name of the channel. It's also a good defense. It's like, dude, this is just my honest opinion. Like, it's it. Like,
Yep.
I'm not saying I'm right. It's like there's plenty
Not
of
out
people.
here,
Yeah.
not here out trying to offend people. We're
Yeah,
just
just it is what it is. So, but yeah, you can follow me just at Sir Rob Bifo. Like I said, I probably should be on there. Anything, all the social medias, it's all at Sir Rob Bifo. So I don't know when the last time I used any other way. At me, I don't know. Maybe I'll get on there more. But thanks for watching, guys. As always, stay tuned. Like I said, I'm gonna have getting my hands on a PS5 tomorrow. So I'll probably be doing some Demon Soul streams or something. We did some, still gonna do some more WoW streams. I got Shadowlands coming out in like days or something, like 9 days. I don't know. I got gonna be busy, so I'll probably be doing a lot more streaming. So come on there if you're into that kind of stuff. Talk whatever. Like Baby Yoda with me now too, keeping us company. So, but don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget that you
yeah.
can
Don't.
submit. Sorry, what are you gonna say?
Sorry, I was going to jump in real quick. Don't forget to let everybody know if they didn't catch it that you did a review of the Sideshow Baby Yoda during
Dude,
your live stream last night.
I
So
did, and I was gonna say too, because if you remember, I completely forgot I had the mini cam up the whole time.
that's
So,
right.
like, for, like, the whole shot, it was, this shot here. I grabbed the little Yoda, I'm gonna pretend this is this one, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, you see this?" and blah, blah, because I was playing WoW at the time, but I decided to switch over and do the review, and so I was, like, holding the thing up, like, here in this little tiny ca so I'm probably gonna redo the review at some point.
Okay.
I was gonna tell
Well,
you, like, "You know what, I'm
if
probably
they
gonna."
can't if they can't wait for that, they can catch it. They can catch your initial one
Yeah,
from your live
absolutely.
stream.
Yeah, absolutely. So go and check out the live. Normally, I'm trying to stream every Friday at the very least. So like, I don't know. It's busy, man. Busy. I wanna get like a more set schedule, but maybe if I got a lot of vacation time coming up in December, so I'll probably be able to stream a lot more come then. So who knows? But we'll see. But again, you can submit topics and questions to the show by emailing us here at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. Send anything you want. I don't care what it is. I'll look at it there no matter what. I'll probably see the email before I see the social media stuff. 'Cause I'm like ass backwards with most people. Most people don't check their email, but the emails I get notifications for on my phone. I don't get notifications for social media on my phone because that shit's annoying. Like, emails are pretty annoying too, but I'll at least see that one on there. So don't forget again, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and the also the audio edition will be up too. Whatever, go check that out. If you can't always watch the show here on YouTube, I put up the audio only version on it, which will probably be a good one for this one, knowing that it's probably about 3 hours or so long. So that's it. That's it. That's all I got for today, guys. So again, thank you for watching. Take care.